Hello, hello. How is everyone? I probably wasn't slightly distracted. We're trying to figure out setup stuff for tomorrow, and it's really distracting. Anyways, how is everyone? Ready for more chaos head? I think that's always the question, but the answer is always the same, like yes but no sort of thing. Um, do I have any thoughts in my head? Not really. I'll be honest. Right. Continues the button I want. Okay, what happened last time? Can I do a recap of what happened last time? I did edit the video, but, because I know a lot of you weren't here last time, which was a little odd, but it's okay. I understand. We did meet Shogun. Yes, we met Shogun at a point. We also met the demon girl, who isn't very demon-y. She's actually kind of cute, but... Hello, Spooky. Welcome on in. How's it going? I'm trying to recap what happened last time. My brain's not cooperating. We got a sword that came with a bangle, and the bangle was given to Takumi's sister. I think Takumi's gonna need that bangle to do anything actually important with that sword, though. I think that's basically it. I don't know, man. It's always like a lot, but... No, Spooky, can you explain what happened last time better than I can? Probably. I don't know. At least give it your best shot. We'll see. I don't know. You know what? That's so valid. Science City was a pair of buildings located just south of Shibuya Scramble Crossing. The east building was located next to Shibuya Station. There was a small plaza just inside the entrance, which was often used as a meeting spot, even if it wasn't as famous as the Hachiko or Moyai statues. A dozen or so people were in there now, waiting and playing with their phones. Not her. One of them was standing alone with a curiously stern expression on her face. She was a teenage girl named Sena Aoi. If you went down the escalator on the second floor of Science City, the one that led away from the Inokashira line station, you would find her there, leaning against a white pillar, watching her surroundings carefully, munching an ice pop. Despite her stern expression in the season, she was nibbling on a popsicle. It was kinda cute in a way. I mean, yeah. Of course, she wasn't waiting for anyone. She was quietly observing the people coming and going around her. From where she was standing, you could see all the way to the big TVs at Scramble Crossing. They were showing a promo for some famous singer. At the bottom of the screen was a scrolling line of text talking about the New Gen murders. Not a day went by when she didn't see something about New Gen. The TV, the papers, the net, the magazines, even the big TVs in the city. Sena wasn't interested in them at all, but walking through Shibuya, she would often hear people talking about the murders. Whose eyes are those? Lately, she's been seeing people wearing t-shirts with that question printed across their fronts. Damn. And it got in its start as an underground beam in Shibuya, and now it's getting out of control. Somebody at a Harajuku gift shop had started selling t-shirts, and they sold pretty well. At least, that's what she'd heard a smiling man say as he passed by her on the street. It was a good sign of how little people cared about anything but themselves. Sena gave a little snort of contempt before she ate the last bite of her popsicle. Popsicle. There we go. I can words sometimes as a treat. She closed her eyes, and the stern expression still on her face. She listened to the noise of the city. On Sundays, the area around the station was filled with many different sounds. Trains rattling into the station, taxi horns, people talking as they walked. Music from the big TVs and inside the shops at Sign City. Announcements endlessly telling you how to safely ride an escalator. The sounds never stopped. As soon as one ended, another took its place. All the different sounds layered together into a dissonant jumble of static. Senna focused on the noise, directing her attention to the people's voices. Her brain shut out any other sound, so she could hear the words clearly.
結局全部同じ犯人なのかな。
違うってニュースで言ってたぞ。手口が違いすぎるって。なんかつバンドの歌詞と一緒らしいじゃん。ファンタズムな。お前のバンドだよ。現実系で有名なだけど。今だってファンタズム知らないなんてさ。じゃあ CD 貸せよ。くれてるよな。ほら、これ見てくれ。この前買って超ゲルのメタルの結構来るじゃね。マジで来るやつ初めて見た。でもあれじゃね。これってニュージェネの犯人に殺してくださいってアピールしてるようなもんじゃん。俺もいよいよ全国デビューか。
最近渋谷超怖い。マジ嘘やる気でも入場何よ。そういうクラスで殺される可能性かもしれない。キモい男とかだけ殺してほしいよね。マジ応援する。
Agreed. Okay. That was a lot. I would have tried reading some of the lines, but my brain just kind of got stuck and just could not. That was a lot. Senna let out a little grunt. She stopped listening almost immediately. Me too. The noise offered her nothing useful. In the end, the noise was just noise. The sensation of being watched. Am I imagining it? Senna looked around one more time. For a while now, she had this awful feeling, like a cold finger running down her spine. Someone's gaze was upon her. But she couldn't find out who it was. Senna stepped away from the pillar she'd been leaning up against. And then, as if she just remembered she was holding it, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand. Not a winner, huh? She looked even more upset as she walked quickly towards the station. Why is that sky so blue, like it makes you want to cry? Because that's what I wished for. I didn't wish for it. I did. This is your mental world, but it's mine too. Hey. Where can I find that sky? I am so confused. Anywhere, if you wish for it. Is it okay for me to wish? Okay. Sayatan was calling me. Yesterday's Blood Tune was such a great episode. Sayatan had a lot of cool scenes. There was also a sexy kiss. The animation quality was top notch too. Sayatan was calling me. Being super moe about it too. I had no choice but to get up. I ripped off the covers and got set off the sofa with a moan. When I hit the switch on the alarm, Sayadatan's voice abruptly stopped.
Ohayo.
Good morning, Sayada. My Sayada voice alarm was a treasure of mine. If you didn't flip the switch, the volume would get gradually louder and louder before switching to an intense buzzer sound. Oof. I want to start my morning waking up with Sedaton, which meant I always tried to flip the switch before the buzzer sounded. It only ever failed twice. Waking up with Sedaton always put me in a great mood. No, actually. Playing games all night and sleeping on the hard sofa made me feel like crap, but having Sedaton wake me up, it did make a little bit of the pain go away. Today was a school day. I'd missed a full day last week, and it was starting to throw off my schedule. I was supposed to only go twice this week, but thanks to that, I'd have to go 3 times. I can read. So good. I didn't want to go, but I had to. Any more skipping and I couldn't graduate. To be honest, even if I couldn't graduate, it wouldn't make that big of a difference for me. I just had a dream about Rimi. It was a strange dream. Somehow nostalgic, somehow lonely, somehow sad, and somehow incredibly distant. I wondered if she was coming to school today. I'd spent a lot of time thinking about what happened 2 days ago. I'd spent so much time thinking about it that I cut into my ESO time. I didn't think much about Shogun, or the delusion of the empty Shibuya. They didn't seem all that important to me. Although it was most likely just a delusion of mine. It was hard to believe that Shogun could be an old man like that. And thinking back, the idea of every single person disappearing from Shibuya just seemed silly. It was a very realistic delusion, but I found myself embarrassed by how easily I believed something so impossible could happen. What was more important was Rimi, the girl I had called a demon girl until just a little bit ago. In that place, where it felt like a strange floating dream, she held me tight, and I could still remember the feeling of her body. If she hadn't done that, I might have gone crazy. My head Rimi saved me. Was it because we were friends? I didn't have any memories at all of us being classmates since our first year, or of going to see a movie with her and Misumi. But the way she treated me was the way you treat a good friend. When she'd held me tight, she looked a little like she was about to cry. That, at least, didn't seem like an act she was putting on. I never met a girl who'd cry over a creepy otaku like me. After seeing it, the fear and suspicion I felt had just blown away. In fact, I almost felt like I could fall in love with her, though I stopped myself from going that far. When I felt most was uncertainty. How should I face Rimi from here on out? Was she my friend or my enemy? Was she responsible for the New Gen murders? It was an undeniable fact that she'd saved me. But it was also true that I'd seen her covered in blood at the site of the crucified murder. I stopped at Shoto Park on my way to school. Ever since the incident with Yoa, I'd quit my habit of eating breakfast here. The idea that Yoa could be out there somewhere watching me made it impossible to enjoy my meal. And even worse, if she came to talk to me, I'd have to listen to a bunch more delusional nonsense. I didn't have time to deal with her. Yoa works for Rimi. That was my original idea, but it may have been wrong. I didn't mean that Yoa wasn't an enemy, though. Maybe Shogun was the big boss, and Yoa was working for him. Whatever the case, it'd be best if I stayed away from her. But today, I'd come here for some reason anyway. I looked around carefully to make sure Yoa was nowhere to be seen. Then I slowly sat down on my bench. I took a bite out of the chocolate pastry I'd bought at the convenience store and looked out at the lake. There was barely any wind, and the water's surface was still and calm. Once in a while, I could see what might be a carp moving through the cloudy water. Carp! Fishies! There was nobody in the park today, which was rare. It was a very quiet space. As I looked around the park, I found myself thinking about new me again. To be honest, I'd almost decided not to go to school today just to avoid facing her again, and so I'd come here to the park to buy some time. I felt like I said all kinds of awful things to her, but she always smiled and been kind to me. Hydrate? Okay, but hello, Nero. Very rare for you to come to stream, but also for a second day in a row. Wild. How's it going, though? And I was sure if I went to school again, she'd come up to talk to me like she always had. She pretended that what we'd experienced in front of the 107 had never happened. She'd smile and treat me like a friend. What do you mean a lot has changed? Please update your friend. Goodness. I never know what's going on with you. Like, literally, the last time you were very communicative with me, you were in a different country altogether. Like, come on, buddy. Also, welcome in, Bear. How's it going? You work at Big Five again? Never. But that's exciting. Don't dox yourself, by the way. Part of her constantly cheerful nature did seem a little obnoxious, but it also felt like if I stayed with her, I might start to feel cheerful too. What should I say when I meet her? I didn't think of her as a demon anymore. But it was also true that I didn't think of her as a friend. Misumi had said that she and I had been friends and classmates for over a year and a half, but I had no memories of that at all. Maybe something had broken within me after all. But could my memories of Rumi disappear while everything else remained intact? Was that possible? I see. That's understandable, though, Bear. I hope you feel better after waking up again. I went to the school building, head pointed toward the ground as always. I did my usual thing of walking slowly on the side of the hallway while I headed for the stairs. My class was on the 3rd floor. It was kind of a pain to get there. I wish there was an escalator, actually. As I got up to the stairs, I saw a girl slowly staggering up them. She was dragging her right leg. Oh no, is she okay? Did she sprain it or something? Her tiny body was kind of wobbling as she walked. She looked like she might fall over at any minute. The other students were quickly passing by her while she went slowly up each step. Word order. From below, I could almost see her panting. Takabi, stop! Crap. If I didn't do something, I'd look like a pervert. Well, maybe if you weren't a pervert, you wouldn't look like one. I didn't want anybody calling me a creep. I tried to quickly walk past her when... Did she fall? Yeah. The girl tripped on the stairs and staggered forward. Oh no. And then she fell hard, right on her face. She sold Hito. Fortunately, she was standing on the landing when she'd fallen, so she didn't end up rolling down the stairs, but she was just lying there on her knees, not moving. Was this the beginning of something romantic? Not a chance, even if it was. I didn't have the courage to talk to her. I quickly slipped past her. Sorry, but get help from Isumi or somebody else who likes 3D girls. God damn it, Takumi. Don't expect anything from me. You know what, you're right. But the girl still wasn't moving, and I started to get a little worried. When I got halfway up the second set of stairs, I turned around to check on her. She was clinging to the railing and trying her hardest to stand up. Her knees were shaking like she was a newborn deer. There was blood on her knee. Maybe she'd scraped it. Oh. I'd seen her face somewhere before. Was she the one who transferred into my class last week? What was her name again? I couldn't remember. Me too. And she was crying too. Did it hurt that badly? Sure, it was a bad fall, but it shouldn't have been enough to make her cry. Nobody else was trying to help her. She finally managed to just barely stand up, and then began to look down at her knee. She seemed to be checking how badly it was hurt. She wiped away her tears, then put down her bag and started to rummage through it. What was she trying to find, I wondered. She suddenly pulled out something out of her bag and held it above her head like she won a great victory. In her fingers, she held a bandage. Alright, Matt. She quickly flushed with embarrassment and looked down. Well, she seemed okay. She didn't need my help, at least, right? I decided to just head to my classroom and leave her there. Yeah, hello, Relix. How's it going? I kept my head down and my gaze glued to my feet, as always. I arrived at my seat wordlessly. Actually, how did that girl said something to me on the day that she transferred here? I've forgotten all about it with what had happened with Remy, but what had she meant? Good, just chillin', doing some stuff on Final Fantasy XIV. Nice.
Yo, Daku.
Hey, Daku. As always, Misumi said hello to me. Maybe he didn't have any friends besides me. You know what? Maybe he doesn't actually. Huh. That would explain why he only ever seemed to talk to me, at least. Get this. I saw these two weird guys going into the principal's office the other day. So, Remy and I decided to sneak a listen, and guess what? The two of them were detectives. Ah, those two. Huh? Detectives. They were looking at a list of names of all the students in the school, and they had these really serious looks on their faces. Maybe it's got something to do with New Gen, you think? I mean, maybe the New Gen killer goes to our school? For some reason, I found myself thinking of Rumi's face. At the end, they totally caught us spying though. My body froze. Speak of the devil. I heard Remi's voice and my heart rate jumped. I couldn't look up. I was too nervous. It was a totally different type of nervousness than what I'd felt last week, though. And that's because you opened the door. Do you understand? Really, Remy? Come on. You don't open the door when you're eavesdropping. Don't blame me. I've never seen a real detective before, so I got all excited, and then I accidentally... How do you accidentally open a door? Great question, Misumi. Thanks to that, even I got questioned by them. Did you do something you don't want the police to know about, Daichi? What about you? Who knows? The two of them were talking, one on each side of my desk. They were both totally ignoring me. But to be honest, I preferred it that way. If Remy talked to me, I wasn't sure I could answer back. I was hoping that the bell would ring, but when I looked over at the clock, I saw there were 5 more minutes until first bell. Hey, Taku. Did you see Kozue on your way here? Kozue? Who's that? Oh, right. I was thinking you wouldn't remember, and I guess you don't. The girl who transferred in last week. Kozue Orihara. No, so her name is Kozue Orihara. On the stairs. The stairs. I saw her. Oh, okay. She'll be here soon, man. Misumi's voice was filled with eager anticipation. I hadn't seen him this alive since he found out that Fess was a girl in the next class over a few days ago. I never seemed excited about anything that didn't involve girls, actually. Come to think of it, hadn't he tried to hit on the transfer student on her first day, too? It was kind of impressive, actually, especially since he already had a girlfriend. Hey, do you think that Kozue is really cute? I mean, she is, but I don't think she's Takemi's type. I wasn't sure how to answer that. I gave him a vague nod. He seemed to take it as a yes. Right? I liked her at first sight. She's the kind of girl who makes you feel like you have to protect her, right? All the guys in class agree. They all think she's cute. But the girls don't really like her. She just transferred here, right? But some of them are even saying she's annoying. Wow. Too many girls in this class have really nasty personalities. That's your fault, isn't it, Daichi? Let me guess. The one who said she was annoying was your girlfriend, right? Oh, yeah. Why? I see. I understand now. Well, of course your girlfriend's not going to like her. Her boyfriend started hitting on the girl right in front of her. Even I get hassled a lot. Stay away from my Daisuke, she says. Actually, a bunch of girls have told me that. Damn. Really? You seriously didn't realize? Why not try to change your ways a little? He sure is tough being popular, huh? This is what I'm talking about. You're an enemy to women everywhere. I won't be backing you up from now on, okay? Oh, there's Orihara. She looks like she's hurt, doesn't she? Yeah. What happened? It was from when she tripped on the staircase. Of course I didn't tell them that. For now, I wanted to minimize the amount of time I spent talking to Rimi. I'll go check it out. Misumi ran off toward the transfer student. Rimi was now the only one standing next to me. Please, Misumi, don't leave me. Here we go. Bad delusion time. What will go wrong? Dots. Dots. Rimi didn't say anything, but she didn't make any move to leave either. I kept staring down at my desk, so I couldn't see the look on her face. I could only see her waist, but I could tell that she was facing me. She was looking at me. I had to say something. Dots. Dots. I had to say something. Anything. More dots. But I didn't know what to say. The more I tried to think, the more my mind began to go blank. Why is she crying? Suddenly, Rumi wiped her nose. Out of sheer reflex, I looked up in surprise. She was crying. I didn't know why, but she was sobbing. I felt even more confused, so I just sat there silently like an idiot. I couldn't think of anything else. Do you? Rumi spoke in a teary voice. Not like me anymore? I'm sorry. I won't talk to you anymore.
ごめんね。
I'm really sorry.
私
I'm bothering you.
邪魔
Aren't
だよ
I?
ね。
And then she turned around and walked out of the classroom. I wanted to scream. That's not true. I wanted to tell her. I just didn't know how to talk to her. That was all. I thought about going after her, but in the end, I couldn't get up from my seat. Even if I did, what should I say to her? What could I say? Do I say, I love you? Do I say, we're friends? Impossible. I didn't know anything about Mimi. Sure, she saved me the other day. But she still was this mysterious person who just come into my life out of nowhere. I didn't know if I liked her or not. I didn't have any memories of her I could use to decide. Aww. Izumi came back from talking to the transfer student. He looked up at me with pity in his eyes. He made her cry. She came to talk to me before, you know. She said she liked you, but you just don't notice. What the heck? When had that happened? I shook my head violently. I don't know. I just don't know at all. It's not something you know or don't know. I guess you're gonna be stuck as a NEET forever. I never spoke to Rumi again after that, all the way up to graduation. Even when we'd see each other in class, we avoided each other. Then after graduation, just like Misumi said, I became a NEET forever and never saw Rumi again. Okay. Maybe I'd end up with a bad ending like that. That'd be pretty sad. But it was just the simple truth that I didn't know anything about Rumi. I had no choice but to sit there in silence. Taku. Since I wasn't saying a single word, Rumi seemed a little scared when she talked to me. But I couldn't even react. From her perspective, it must look like I was ignoring her. Yeah. In my mind, I knew this wasn't right, but I still couldn't bring myself to do anything. You okay? This time I nodded, desperately. I probably looked really weird. I see. Good, I guess. Her tone was gentle. Somehow, unbelievably, I'd managed to avoid the bad ending. She wants to know if I'm okay, huh? Suddenly, I wanted to ask her. When she'd seen me in front of the 107, how had the world looked to her? From the fact that she hadn't brought them up, she might not know anything about the people disappearing from Shibuya or Shogun in his wheelchair. Did that mean they really were part of my delusion? I wanted to ask Rumi that. But I didn't feel like I could raise my head and ask any more questions. Not today, anyway. I wasn't ready. And that's next time. Next time I came to school. Yeah, that was it. I take some time and think about everything I needed to ask. Huh? Hey, Taku. Orihara's coming over here. The transfer student? Why would she be coming over here? Was she not... Was she going to get mad at me for not helping her on the stairs? She didn't look like that type of girl. Maybe she wanted to talk to Rumi, not me. The transfer student stopped right next to Rumi. She wasn't saying anything. What was going on? With Rumi here, I couldn't look up. The transfer student's feet seemed to be nervously fidgeting, but she didn't say anything. Orihara, what's up? For some reason, she put a single bandage down on the edge of my desk. It was a fancy one, and had a weird character, Ghetto Froggy, on it.
Huh?
Was she giving me this? I wasn't sure how to react to that. The transfer student, Kozue Orihara, was a bit of an odd one. What? Don't cry, Orihara. Huh? Was she crying? Why was she crying? Because they didn't say anything? But she didn't say anything either, right?
タクは怒ってるわけじゃな
I
いと
don't
思う
think Taku's mad. Rumi backed me up. It felt strange. I didn't know anything about Rumi, but she knew all about me.
彼ってあまり
He
人と
doesn't
目を
really
合わ
like
せ
to
よう
look
とし
into
ない
other
の
people's
引
eyes.
っ込み思案って
He's
や
just
つ
shy.
だから
So,
そんなにガチガ
you
チ
don't
に
need
緊張し
to
なく
be
ても
so nervous, okay?
え
Huh?
私にも絆創膏
You're
くれ
giving
る
me a
の
bandage, too?
ありがとう
Thanks. That's cute. The transfer student bowed and ran back to her own seat.
なんだか
I don't
よく
really
わかんない
understand
ん
what
だ
that
け
was
ど
about, but Taku,
タク
you should
そ
accept
の
gifts
絆
when
創膏
someone
を
gives
も
them
らっ
to
てあげ
you.
るべきだと思う
Why has she given it to me? Because you stopped to make sure she was okay, and literally no one else did, dude.
梢ちゃん
Kozue is really quiet. Like sense me to me coming back.
転校初日に俺が
I showed her
校内を
around
案
the
内したん
school
だ
on
け
her
ど
way here.
うわ
Wow.
早く
You
も
went
手
after
出した
her
な
already?
まだ出してね
I haven't really gone after her yet.
え
Yet.
でまあ
Anyway,
1時間ぐ
I
らい
showed
かけ
her
て
around for
あちこち
about
回
an
ったんだ
hour,
よ
and it was just me talking the whole time. It was a little exhausting.
しかも
She would break into tears all the time, too.
そうそう
Yeah, she just started crying here, too. I was really worried that something might have happened.
そんだけピュアなんだ
She just got a really pure heart.
なタク
Hey,
お前なら
Taku,
わかるだろ
you understand, right?
梢ちゃんの
How
仕草
everything she does
一
is
つ
really
一つの
cute.
可愛さってのがよお前流に言うなら
It's what you called
萌え
moe,
って
right?
やつだなんだ
But
クソでも我慢
are
し
you
て
holding in a shit or something? I shook my head as hard as I could.
タク
Taku hasn't said a word this whole time. It's because you're here with me. I'm not ready to talk to you. I've never really talked to a female friend before. Never even had a female friend.
でもさ
But you know,
今
when I was
折原
talking
さ
to
んと話して
Orihara,
みて
I
なん
kinda
となく
felt
思った
like
んだけど彼女と話してると
like talking to her
なん
would
だか
tire you
疲
out.
れちゃいそう
Maybe.
かも
I don't know.
女子ってのは
Girls are brutal to each other. Don't worry though. I'll protect Kozue.
梢ちゃんは俺が守るからいいけどな
ほんの数十秒前
Didn't you just
大地に
say
相手
talking to her was
する
exhausting a few
疲れた
seconds
って言って
ago?
なかった
うっせ
Shut up.
梢ちゃんは
Kozue's got the same smell about her as Taku.
ほっとけね
Like the kind of person you feel you need to look out for. No, I could kind of understand that. The sound of the bell told me that all my classes for the day were finished. As soon as I heard it, I packed up all my stuff and headed out the door. I wanted to get the heck out of here as soon as possible, partially because of the awkward distance between me and Rumi. But also, I had something to pick up at Mangadarake today. In the end, I was never able to say a word to Rumi. I had several chances to talk to her, but I kept silent the whole day, just like I'd done in the morning. Maybe that was mean. Maybe I just made it even harder to talk to her next time. I felt like maybe I was only making things worse.
あ、お兄
Oh, brother. I heard an annoying girl calling out to me as I left the school building. Nanami ran up to me with a trash can in her arms. She seemed to be in the middle of taking out the garbage. Might she have to bother me then? I tried to ignore her and leave, but as always, she refused to let me go. Nanami yanked on the hem of my blazer.
妹見て逃げる
How
な
many
って
times do I have to tell you not to run when you see your sister?
なんだよ
What do you want?
なんだよじゃない
Don't
わ
ask me that.
お兄が逃げるから
I ran after
ママ
you
も
because
つい
you
追いかけ
tried to
たん
run
だ
away. Don't run after me if I don't have anything to talk about. You never call home for one thing. Well, I've already given up on that though. I can't expect you to actually consider it. To be actually considerate. Good, you understand. That's the kind of intellect I want to see in my little sister. Not that I need a 3D little sister at all. So from now on, I'll be going over to your place every few days. That's kinda often. She has chase instinct, so true. Be grateful. Crap. I should have known that's how this was going to end up. When somebody rid me of this obnoxious little sister. No, if that was impossible, I at least wanted to get back at her a little. I wanted to get back at her for a long time, actually. I had an idea. I had a plan that I've been working on for a while. This is my chance to put it into practice. Maybe it would give me a little bit of vengeance. I looked around to make sure no one was watching, and then beckoned Nanami to follow me into the yard. What? Come with me. Why? Is there something there? Man, she was annoying. Could you... Can you just shut up and follow me? I need to ask you to do something important. Something important? You want me to do something? Her eyes were wide with shock. That's rare. You never ask me for anything. Just shut up and follow me. Hey, wait. There weren't that many people in the yard. On lunchtime, it was filled with students eating lunch. Nobody but the gardening club would bother coming here after school, though. So, what is it? She put her trash can down and looked at me with a smile. Oh, but you have to buy me dinner at MacD's. If you can do that, I'll help you, even though I really don't want to. She's so annoying. I don't think she'd want me to pay a price for it. Especially since I already bought her MacD's. Oh, whatever. But fine. I'll buy you MacD's. Huh? Really? You're different than your usual self today. I was actually lying, though. Sorry for being a liar, lol. Oh boy. I'll have the text to speak. And that's slang for sorry, often used in phrases like hehehe, sorry, lol. This phrase is never used when you're actually sorry, but to provoke or annoy someone. I handed Nanami my cell phone. Then I asked her to call the number 03X733X991, the one that had prank called me. You want me to call a number in your call history? Who is it? Somebody I know online. She looked at me suspiciously, so I came up with the most plausible sounding lie I could. Why did I have to call? You'll know when you do it. Are you plotting something? Jeez, would you shut up? Just shut up and do what I tell you. If you can't do that, then leave. I don't need you or anything. Or for anything. Fine, I won't ask you. I tried to take the phone back, but Nanami pulled her hand away from me. Fine, I'll call it. I just have to call the number, right? Really? You could be such a selfish brother. You don't get to talk. I held back my anger and gulped as I waited for her to call the number. Nanami innocently put the phone up to her ear and waited for someone to answer. I could see the yellow bangle on her wrist as she held up the phone. That was the one I gave her, or more precisely, that she'd taken from my room. She was wearing it to school. Did she like it that much? That cheap bangle I got for free? Nanami really did have terrible fashion sense. Maybe I was one to talk, though. No, that wasn't important right now. He was gonna answer the phone. Some scary Dokyun guy. I hoped it was just a prank and had nothing to do with Shogun or Yua. Oh, hello. Someone seemed to have picked up. Nanami had spoken into the receiver. But she soon furrowed her brow. Then she offered the phone back to me. Brother. What? You know exactly what. It says the number is not in service. Huh? I took the phone and put it to my ear, and what I heard was, the number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try. It was true. Maybe it really was just a prank then. Maybe whoever was behind it would just call a bunch of random numbers and prank them before ditching the phone and number they were using. That was a lot of work for a prank. No, it wasn't my problem. Now that I know the mysterious caller was just a prank, I feel much safer. Hey, what was that about? I'm done with you. Huh? I left Nanami behind and started to walk, but Nanami followed after me. Explain what that was about. Shut up. You're on cleaning duty, right? You left your trash can. Oh. But you didn't explain. I'm going home. Nanami grabbed me, but I ignored her and started to quickly walk toward the school gate. Okay, brother. Just don't forget you owe me MacD's. Don't forget, okay? I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, did you lie to me? Yeah, I guess. Nah. Nanami came to a stop, pouting. Then I kept walking. Brother, you jerk! She screamed loud enough for everyone to hear. I looked back, annoyed, and she was glaring at me, shoulders heaving with rage. I hope the radiation from your phone fries your brain and you die. Crap. Next to Nanami's yelling, I was starting to attract attention. I had to go unnoticed at school. What a obnoxious little sister. I headed for the gate at a jog, ignoring her. The best move at a time like this was to run. Jerk! I could hear her screaming even outside the gate. There was an artist I liked called Higashi Matasama. Higashi Matasama was super famous, and his circle had huge lines at every event they attended. His new Blood Tune Dojin, which had come out in the summer, had sold out in an instant. I'd wanted to go, but those events were always way too crowded for me. I'd reluctantly given up. I thought that I could just buy it from Manga Darake, but I'd been naive. And they'd sold some copies there, but they were gone in minutes. The things were going for tens of thousands of yen above retail online too. Freaking nut resellers. I hope they'd all just die. Reseller, someone who buys difficult to find merchandise and then resells it for a high price in online auctions. I thought I had to give up entirely. But on At-chan yesterday, I happened to see a post saying that Manga Darake had gotten a new shipment in. I decided to come here right after school. Oh God, grant me a miracle. I said a silent prayer in front of the shop and headed inside. I searched the Dojin corner as thoroughly as I could. I went back and forth again and again, searching and searching, but I couldn't find it. Sob. Like emoji. Was it sold out already? I glanced quickly at the register. The cashier was a girl. She wasn't very cute, but she looked friendly. Asking a cashier if they had something in stock was an extremely high-level technique, and one I never used in my life. The reason was simple. I didn't have the courage. Especially since Higashi Matasama's new dojin was called Serutan's Extreme Cos. I feel like I somehow got that last word wrong, but I'm not... Yeah, not a chance. Excuse me, do you have any copies of Serutan's Extreme Cos? If I asked a female cashier that, I look like a pervert. Yeah, not happening. And then I gave up and left. Maybe I should just go home. Or maybe I should head to At Cafe. As I walked along, uncertain of what to do, and caught a glimpse of a certain sword I recognized in the corner of my eye. Its distinctive shape, like it was split in two at the edges, it was the same that girl B, that is, Senna, had been holding. I could see its tip peeking above the crowds of people walking down Center Street. It was coming toward me, so I quickly ran into a nearby arcade. I hid in the shadows and watched as Senna walked by. She was heading to the station at a fast pace, the same scary look on her face that she always had. It didn't seem like she'd noticed me. That said, after experiencing for myself how embarrassing it was to carry a D-sword down the street, it was hard not to be impressed by her. Isn't she embarrassed at all while carrying that? The cops had to have stopped her at least once, right? I was sure of it. Senna was getting further and further away from me. Where could you get a cool D-sword like the one she has? Why don't you ask her? The one I bought didn't glow and didn't look that cool. Honestly, I was pretty dissatisfied with it. Compared to mine, Senna's was incredibly cool. I bought the D-sword as a good luck charm mostly. I've been scared to death and was ready to cling to anything that might offer salvation. After what had happened with Rumi, I felt a little better, but the situation hadn't really changed. Shogun, Yuan, I still had a lot of enemies out there. And so I wanted a stronger looking D-sword. Of course, part of it was just that I was an otaku, and we liked to collect things. As if drawn by Senna's D-sword, I found myself heading out into Scramble Crossing. I bit my lip. Crap. I didn't want to come near the station. I didn't even want to go to Center Street or to school. I'd only done it reluctantly because I had to. Being surrounded by people I didn't know made me feel like I had nowhere to run. It felt hard to breathe. As usual, the place was packed. I started to feel sicker and sicker. For a while, I just stared at the ground, trying not to throw up. When I looked up again, the D-sword was gone. I thought I'd seen her walking over to the Hachiko statue. The crosswalk lights on Scramble Crossing had just turned green. Many people began to walk in many different directions. The area inside the crossing was pure chaos. It shocked me that so many people could each be going in their own directions without slamming into each other. Looking at it, I realized how impossible my delusion of an empty Scramble Crossing the other day was. Oh, we're in a pre-pandemic world. There probably wasn't a single second in a year when this place was empty. Except for in 2020. Pandemic. Why was I chasing after Senna anyway? I couldn't even ask a cashier at Manga Darake if they had a doujin in stock. How was I supposed to be able to talk to that scary Senna girl? She might even be an enemy. If I walked right up to her without any defenses up, there's no telling what she would do to me. I was being crazy. I should just go home. But just when I turned to go. That's odd. I noticed a white chain lying on the road. And while I couldn't be sure, because the other pedestrians were blocking my view, it looked like it led all the way to the other side of Scramble Crossing. What was that about? It was an awfully long chain. Was it for some kind of construction thing? But it didn't look like anybody was doing any kind of construction. It was hard to believe somebody would just leave this chain here. Maybe it was for a TV or movie shoot? No, they wouldn't do a shit with all these people around. Had somebody just left it here, then? A huge chain like this? It would be a hassle just to bring it here. Either way, it was in the way of the pedestrians and cars. Confused, I looked at the people around me to see how they reacted. It looked like you could easily trip over the thing, but nobody was paying it any attention. I rubbed my eyes and stared at it again, wondering if I just hallucinated it. but the chain was still there. Got delusions and hallucinations, also referred to as seeing things, and sometimes used to refer to optical illusions, a phenomenon where the brain knows that a particular piece of visual information is incorrect but still can't help but see it. One famous example would be the Muller-Lyer illusion. It's hypothesized that the cause of these hallucinations is a gap between what the brain predicts should be there based on past experience and what it's actually seeing. The information received by the eyes is transmitted to the cerebrum via the optic nerves. However, seeing is the process of constructing a representation of the outside world based on sensory data, and this involves passing the data through the filter of what the brain believes should be there. One theory says that humans ignore 99% of the sensory information they receive. If someone ever did try to process all 100% of incoming sensory information, it said it would drive them insane. Wow. No, nope. Let's not accidentally exit the game, please, and thank you. It was creepy, so I didn't have the courage to touch it, though. It wasn't a cheap plastic thing. It was made out of tough-looking metal. How long had it been there? Normally, I wouldn't think it was a trap. I'd assume something terrible was waiting for me at the other end of it and run away in fear. But for some reason, I couldn't stop thinking about where it might lead. A kind of oppressive force was taking over my mind and telling me I needed to follow it. I stumbled into several people as I went, but I managed to make it to the other side of the crossing before the light turned red. The train had led to an old train car, painted dark green, that was sitting next to the Hachiko statue. The train car's wheels had been removed, so it was more like a monument than something you could actually use. This cart was open to anybody who wanted to go inside, if I remembered right. The train led through the car's open door and inside. There were a lot of people waiting around Hachiko, but nobody was paying it any attention. They didn't even seem to notice it was there. It didn't seem like there was anybody inside the train car either. I gulped and looked inside. It was only then that I realized it was a trap. I didn't understand why it had taken me this long to notice. The train car had seemed empty, but there was actually a single person inside. Sena Ali was sitting on one of the red seats, her legs crossed. Her sharp gaze was locked firmly onto me. For some reason, she had a popsicle in her hand, that shade of blue. It was a Garugari-kun, wasn't it? No, Garugari-kun wasn't important right now. The strange thing was, I didn't see her huge D-sword anywhere. It was so big. Where could she have hidden it? Oh boy, another delusion. Instead of the sword, the white chain was coiled up at her feet. I realized that when we'd last met, she said something about being at the train car. This must have been what she meant. So, she'd been the one to put the chain out there. Had she actually walked around carrying that huge thing? It had to weigh at least 10 kilograms. It was probably over 50 meters long. There was something about this girl that was just beyond my understanding. She wasn't normal. Could she be Shogun? I got scared and tried to run. But then her sharp gaze came flying at me. Come in. Suddenly, I stopped. Noticed she suddenly leaped at me with her D-sword. The idea scared me to death. I'd be so terrified. I'd probably do whatever she wanted me to. I took another step inside the car. But then I stopped again. This is just what Senna told me to do. I was like a moth to a flame, or a moth caught in a spider's web or something. This wasn't safe. What was I doing? Walking right to my death. I should run. Running would be much safer. I could tell from the chain that she was incredibly strong. She could just twist her hand a little and drop me helplessly to the ground, breaking my arm. And that wasn't all. She had a D-sword too. If that huge heavy sword hit me, I'd be dead. She'd been waiting for me, She was planning something. I had to get out of here now. I turned to run. But the door to the train was closed. I'd only just come in. Just a few seconds had passed. So why? Without a sound, without any sign, had the door been able to close? I just stood there helplessly. I couldn't understand what had happened. When had the door closed? Who had shut it? That was an automatic door, and even if it was, I would have heard a noise when it closed. Sana had been sitting on her seat, not moving at all. It hadn't been her. And of course it wasn't me either. I hadn't even touched it. I wondered if the manager of the car might be somewhere nearby, but I looked outside the window and didn't see anyone who looked like that. No, wait, it didn't matter who'd shut the door. I looked toward the door at the other end of the car. It was closed too. I was locked in. The only people in the car were Senna and me. What did that mean? 1,000 negative thoughts came to me. It made me want to scream. How long? Senna spoke, glaring at me. Are you going to keep standing there? There was nowhere to run. My legs were shaking. If I made a lot of noise, the people outside might notice, but before they could intervene, Senna would kick the crap out of me. For now, the smart thing to do would be not to resist. I gave up and walked over to Senna. Huh? Suddenly, I realized something. The coil chain had been at Senna's feet just a moment ago was now completely gone. She must have moved it somewhere, but I hadn't heard any sound, and she must have been sitting in her seat the whole time. And even if she had moved it, where had she moved it to? I couldn't see the chain anywhere in the car. Where was the error? Senna asked me another strange question, completely ignoring my confusion. That's why you followed me, right? I shook my head quickly in confusion, and her expression only grew sterner. Finally, she looked away from me, sighing a little and nibbling on her popsicle. When she released me from her terrible gaze, I almost collapsed. I wanted to sit on a seat, but she'd probably say something. I gave up on the idea. I realized you were following me. You saw the error I created, right? What do you mean, error? The chain. The white chain. And that's what she meant. Then yes, I'd seen it. I followed that strange white chain all the way here. But it's gone. It disappeared. I got rid of it. It was my delusion after all. Delusion? What was she talking about? The what about the sword? You have one too, right? Huh? She thought I had one? Of course I didn't. This conversation wasn't making any sense. More importantly, who are you? You seem to be able to see. What? Sana glanced at me before jerking her head in the direction of the window. What do you see outside the window? Outside the window? People. I saw lots of people. There were even more than there'd been a second ago. Just looking at them made my head hurt. People with their heads down playing with their cell phones. People laughing as they talked on the phone. People just standing and watching other people go by. Most of the people I could see from where I was standing seemed to be waiting for someone else. Wait, if there were so many people out there, how come none of them thought it was strange that Senna and I were locked inside the train? None of them were paying the train even the slightest bit of attention. Do you think there's a perfect, complete world out there? That's impossible. There are errors. They exist. Because everything, humans included, runs on electricity. Was this her weird personal fan fiction? I mean, I had similar fantasies all the time. I wasn't going to tell her not to have them. All the novels, all the movies, all the anime in the world came from goofy fantasies. So why were the fantasies of a novelist or a director okay? Well, the ones amateurs like me came up with okay, let's try that again. So why were the fantasies of a novelist or a director okay? Well, the ones amateurs like me came up with were mocked. And what's more, think about it. All the great people of history had goofy, childish fantasies. The Wright brothers honestly believed they could fly over 100 years ago. Napoleon actually told people, the word impossible is not in my dictionary. You shouldn't make fun of somebody for having fantasies. All of history's greats had fantasies. The problem was, this girl had to suddenly started sharing hers with me. Neurodivergency, so true, Bear. When you see it doesn't matter. What matters is what you're being shown. People receive information about the outside world from their senses. Over 80% of that information comes from vision. The images your vision shows you are transmitted by optic nerves to the brain in the form of electrical pulses. It was kind of like a phone, I thought. The phone took somebody's voice and turned it into an electrical signal, and then sent that information to someone else far away. The phone, huh? It's similar in a way. She read my mind. No, that was impossible. Had I spoken aloud without realizing it again? Do you know about VR technology? Virtual reality? Of course, this time I was careful not to say it out loud. Visual rebuilding. Huh, I was wrong. Never heard of that. It's like technology being researched by American psychophysiologists. Are they in Victor Conjuga University? Take someone who's been blind from birth and make it so they can see what's in front of them. It uses a tool similar to a video camera, you see. You're wondering how that's possible, but the principle is quite simple. The video recorded by a camera and a human nerve impulse are both, at their most fundamental level, electrical signals. Electrical stimulus signal that travels along a living creature's nervous system. These signals allow for rapid transfer of information. They're finally putting the science in the Science Adventure series in this game now though, for real. All you need is something to convert the video into nerve impulses. They've already succeeded in tests. One research team already has a patent. A patent? Was that true? It felt like a really well thought out delusion. What kind of delusion includes stuff about patents? If you read the patent carefully, you'll discover something. Senna turned her gaze away from the window and toward me. She crossed her legs again slowly. If it were possible to convert a certain deliberately chosen information pattern into nerve impulses, you would be able to control all 5 of a person's senses, and in fact, their will itself. The train was right in front of Shibuya Station, but it was strangely quiet. It felt like the sound was being shut out. Of course, it was just my imagination, but I remember the empty Shibuya I'd seen days ago. I couldn't take my eyes off the crowd and outside. Like I said before, people run on electricity. Electricity travels not just through the brain, but all the nerves in the body. In other words, you could control their movements as well. Theoretically, that is. This girl. I was in shock. She was more delusional than even you or me. What she said sounded logical on the surface, kind of, but it was clearly just a fantasy. In fact, the team that got the patent is shifting their research in that direction. The concept is so dangerous that the American president issued an executive order to try to stop it. How much of what she was saying was actually true? The order banned any organization from researching the secrets of the human body without prior approval from the government. The same goes for providing any such organization with support. Senna looked down. She tightly clenched her fists as they rested in her lap.
だが世の中は
But the world
腐
is
った
full
連
of
中ばかり
scum.
倫理を無視して
The kind of scum who
自分の
ignore
利益の
ethics
た
of
めだけ
any
に他
kind
者を平気で
and
犠
think
牲
nothing
に
of
するような連
sacrificing
中
others for their own gain.
ヘドが出る
It makes me want to throw up. She put the last of the melting garigari-kun popsicle into her mouth, then stood up. I stepped back, only to find my back against the wall.
無知は罪だ
Ignorance is a
知らない
sin.
方が幸せな
Some
ことも
people
あ
say
る
it's
という
bliss,
人間もい
but
る
they're naive.
そんなのはただの甘えだ世界を疑え
Doubt the world.
仕組み
Learn
を知る
how it works.
この世界は完璧
This
じゃない
world isn't perfect. She was walking toward me. I thought she might punch me and tried to shield myself with my arms, but Senna just walked straight past me.
お前の見ている景色は
Is what you're seeing truly real? She whispered as she passed me, without so much as a glance my way. And then she left the train. Just like when it closed, the door had silently opened again at some point in our conversation. Meow, hello Catman, how's it going? The whole conversation felt like a strange dream, like maybe it had never happened at all. I watched Senna walk away through the train's car window, sitting there in shock. She disappeared into the crowd without turning around once. You almost forgot to join? Shameful. Fake fan. In the end, I never did figure out what she was trying to say. You're sleepy? Me too, buddy. The one thing I could tell was that she really hated the world. A completely typical teenager, I guess. From my perspective, having to listen to all that crazy stuff was just a nuisance. The way she spoke made it sound like she was a teacher giving a lecture. In 2D, the way she talked might be kind of moe, but in the real world it just made her seem like a dokyu. But I was glad she didn't attack me. For some reason, she had this air about her like she might slap someone at any time for any reason. I felt like I needed to rest for a moment, so I sat down on the seat where Senna had been sitting a moment ago. A second later, a Dokyun-looking couple came inside. Then soon after them, 3 Dokyun-looking girls came in, then an old man, and a young salaryman in a suit. Before long at all, the car was jammed tight with people. Nobody had tried to come in when Senna was here, so why had it suddenly changed? The voices of the girls and Dokyun couple were annoying me. I whispered "die" several times to myself, silently before leaving. Wild. I'm gonna go on a quick BRB to get... Gonna save just in case something stupid happens, first of all. But gonna go on a quick BRB to get beverage and bathroom real quick. Don't miss me too much, y'all. Mao. I think the cat also might be in the bathroom. Have to escort him out. But anyways. Arc, I return. I hope you guys didn't miss me too much. Bloop. So yeah, this weird chick was hassling me. You have angered me. Kamoji. Listen, Nightheart, you keep saying you're not into 3D chicks, but you seem to be having a lot of fun with them. You said one broke inside of your house the other day. Let's really out of an H game. You had some luck lately, asshole. Listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying. Yes, I'll admit I've had more chances to talk to cute girls. But they're all crazy. I love that crazy is a tip. Someone with a psychological problems, often severe, not a medical diagnosis. So true. Let's see how you react when they tried their weird fantasy shit on you. It's seriously scary, man. Oh, sorry. It's all good. They're freaking Kamojis. Even after I made it home, I couldn't get Senna's words out of my mind. That's valid. Of course, I didn't think it was real, but that part about the patents and executive order I could find if I decided to look it up. I went to Grim for help, and we started searching the internet. Grim knew somebody who lived in the US, so we got their help too. Not that I expected to find anything. These days, nobody would believe anything without a source. No, I got word from Shiho. Shiho was Grim's net buddy. They lived in the US and spoke fluent English, supposedly. It was BS, right? That crazy bitch. She probably thought she could fool me because I didn't speak English. Don't underestimate the internet. Glad that's settled. They found it, they said. Huh? They found it, they said. Found what? They're translating it for us. I'll up it for you. This another troll? You don't trust me, huh? Well, I guess I can understand why, given all the shit I pull all. Wanna bring Shio here then? Is it real? Grim had lied to me about all kinds of stuff. Usually when he did something like this, he'd make me look at some disgusting mental browser crash link. But he even had a source and was saying he can invite Shiho. This is a troll, I'm banning you from the guild. Okay, this time you can trust me. He seems really confident. Maybe this time I could trust him. Damn it. Why am I so gullible? My heart pounded as I clicked on the link, narrowing my eyes so that I wouldn't be able to see it clearly at first. What is this? It was a paper written in English, with a strange diagram at the bottom. There was something in the diagram that looked like a human face. It says United States patent. So it was true. In other words, this was an American patent. Do you know about VR technology? I've already succeeded in tests. One research team already has a patent. It was real. I opened one of the 2 text files that were attached with it. It was a Japanese translation of an article talking about the patent. The Victor Condria University Psychophysiology Lab is currently working on a revolutionary technology called visual rebuilding. I mean, I called it. It makes sense. Like, I feel like it's not the most impressive thing to call, but like, damn. Victor Condria University. The technology is intended for the field of therapeutics, and is being eagerly followed by blind people all over the world. This revolutionary invention would allow the blind to see with the aid of a visual device such as a camera. To explain in basic terms how it works, The electronic signals generated by the video camera are transformed into nerve impulses, the one form of electrical signal that the brain can read. These signals are transmitted to the optic nerves and through them to the brain. Tests have been successful and a patent was issued. The patent. It's real. What Senna had been saying wasn't just some silly fantasy then. I gulped and clicked on the other file. Official order issued by the White House, 3/27/1997, strengthening protections of research into the secrets of the human body. No organization may do any research into the secrets of the human body without informed consent or support any other organization that conducts such research. Informed consent. To consent to any kind of contract with full knowledge of it. In Japan, this word is almost completely restricted to the medical field. Doctor has the duty to explain the full nature of any medical procedure, its purpose, effects, success rate, dangers, costs, alternative treatments, etc., in a correct and easy to understand manner. Only then can a patient truly agree to the procedure. This order will go into effect on the 3/27/1998 or earlier if the appropriate legislation passes. Wow, legislation that's older than me! William J. Clinton, President of the United States. I knew separately that Bill is a nickname for William, but like, I don't know, I just never thought that his first name is actually William, you know? Anyways, an executive order from the President of the United States. It was like something you'd see in the backstory for a movie, but it was real. I clicked on the link too, just to be sure. I could read English even if I couldn't speak it. Me, sometimes with Japanese. I was a lot smarter than the dog kids that went to school every day after all. Keep telling yourself that, buddy. The actual text was more or less the same as the translation I've been given. Which means... Senna's words echoed in my mind. If it were possible to convert a certain deliberately chosen information pattern to nerve impulses, you would be able to control all 5 of a person's senses, and in fact, their will itself. This whole thing was getting kind of complicated, but knowing what Senna said, and that there was a source online to back it up made my skin crawl. I felt like there was some kind of terrible secret involved with all this. And what worried me more than anything was the fact that Senna had chosen to tell me this. Did it have something to do with me? The idea of controlling another person's will seemed to, at least. I still hadn't ruled out the possibility that I was sleepwalking. Supposedly the day the 3rd Gen incident, Crucified, happened, I'd been using the account Shogun to chat at Cafe. I didn't remember Mia at all, either. I'd supposedly spent over a year with her as a classmate and even gone to hang out a few times, but I didn't remember her at all. Maybe I'd done all that while someone was controlling me. After all, there was no way a guy like me, who could barely talk to 3D girls, could be friends with a cute girl like Remy. No, I was overthinking it. The thing with the chat, at least, was just a delusion of Yua's. Shogun was someone else, and just trying to set me up. I wasn't sure if he was actually the old man in the wheelchair I'd seen in front of the 107 building, but it didn't matter. It was even possible that Senna was working with Shogun too. Maybe she was trying to trick me. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I didn't know anything about her, and I couldn't trust her. Senna was no different than Yua. That's what I should be thinking. Right, Seira-tan? Oh. The only sound in the room was that of fingers on keys. Yua Kusunoki's thin, slender fingers were dancing on the keyboard. Her gaze was locked on the monitor. She was typing without looking at the keyboard with barely any spelling errors. She was writing an email. A long one, too. She'd spent 30 minutes already thinking about what to write, and then going back and changing it. Suddenly, her fingers stopped. She let out a sad sigh and suddenly pressed down hard on the backspace key. The cursor on the screen began to scroll quickly toward the left. Everything she'd written vanished in a flash as it went. When it was all gone, Eva brought her Get a Froggy plush over from the bed and gave it a tight squeeze. It was a habit of hers lately. If she wasn't holding something tightly, the fear would overtake her. She pressed her head down into the stuffed animal and sighed a little.
私に
Give me
勇気をくだ
courage.
さい。
She whispered to no one in particular, and then pursed her lips. She put the stuffed animal on her lap and put her hands back on the keyboard. Letters began to appear on the screen once more, one by one, as her slender fingers typed. The message was, compared to the one she just deleted, simple and short. When she was done, she hesitated a moment before finally clicking send.
終わっちゃった。
I sent it. The email was sent on its way before she had the chance to change her mind. She held the Gyro Froggy on her lap tightly and just stared at the monitor for over an hour. She hadn't expected an answer, of course, but there was no sign that one was coming. Room 37 was the same as always. I sunk down into the reclining seat and bit my nails in an attempt to calm my irritation. There was a reason I'd come to At Cafe 2 days in a row, both yesterday and again today. That night, 2 days ago, after I found out that after I found out from Grim that Senna's story was true, I got an email from Yua. It was, ridiculously enough, a request to talk to me again. Screw you was what I wanted to say to her. Why would I want to talk to you after you lied to me? I don't have anything to talk to you about anyway. Obviously, this is just part of some new trap. I'm not gonna waste time talking to you. Sure, I wasn't used to talking to girls. That's why I got so excited when Yua tried to be friendly with me. But behind my back, she thought I was an idiot. And then there was that weird delusion of hers. Sure, I had delusions myself, but I didn't bother other people with them. But her? That crazy bitch had practically called me the new gen killer. I've never forgiven her. Or I'd never forgive her. I decided to just ignore it, but there was one problem. The email said she'd come visit the base. She knew where it was, so if she wanted to, she could. That's why I'd come here, to At Cafe, even though it wasn't a school day. I wanted to take the D-sword with me for protection, but unlike Senna, I lacked the courage to carry that thing through Center Street. Spending almost half a day in an At Cafe was kind of exhausting, though. The reclining seat was comfy, and there was even a shower in the place, but it wasn't as relaxing as the base. And the biggest problem of all was that Sertatan wasn't here. After 2 days holed up in At Cafe, I'd come to realize how much she'd meant to me. I wanted to go home now. But I decided I'd stay here until midnight at least. But then, the trains would stop running, and even I wouldn't be able to stay out that late. It'd be another 4 hours until midnight. If I played some ESO, the time would fly, but... I looked over at the monitor. My second character, Liz Latte, was just standing there, doing nothing.
お前の見ている景色は
Is what you're seeing truly real? I remembered what Senna said. Over half of what she told me was true. The one thing I hadn't been able to find a source for was that stuff controlling people's will or their bodies. Maybe that part was just Senna's delusion? Mixing in a little lie with the truth was something that blackmailers and other people who wanted to make threats often did, because it worked. I knew that, at least in my head. But after all the strange things that had happened to me over the past few weeks, I still didn't gonna help but feel scared. I stared at Liz Latte on the screen. Liz Latte. Is what you're seeing real? I whispered so that nobody around me could hear. I thought about something similar a bunch of times. Baselard, Liz Latte's world, the world that I was looking at right now was real to her, but to me it was fake. Which meant that the person controlling me was seeing my world, and it was fake too. But just as Lizelate couldn't see her controller because he was in a higher dimension, I couldn't see the person controlling me either. Did Lizelate ever think about things like this? She couldn't even move unless I told her to. So what about me? Could I even get out of this reclining seat if the person controlling me didn't want me to? I tried to stand up, just to see if I could. I succeeded easily. Then I tried sitting down. I did it without difficulty. Was what I just did done of my own will? Or was the person controlling me telling me what to do? I didn't have any way to tell. Huh. I heard the sound of the door to my booth opening. I sensed somebody come in. I turned around. Yep. It was Yuakusu Noki. I was so scared I tried to scream. But Yua put her hand on my mouth. Her hand was warm, and the sound of her sweat hit my nostrils. Be quiet. Don't make any noise. Promise me you won't. No promise, right? You won't tell me you're not going to promise, right? Promise me. You'll promise, right? You will. Please. Oh boy. The booth was tiny. Yua blocked the only exit. The next thing I knew, she pinned my shoulders with incredible strength. I couldn't get up from the seat. Her cold gaze pierced me from the point-blank range. I looked away, unable to bear her gaze. I let the 3 gouter froggies on her shoulder bag. Okay. Don't make a noise. Her hand slowly moved away. Help! I tried to shout, but she put her hand over my mouth again. I couldn't breathe. Why did you try to yell? You promised. You promised, right? Tell me you promised. You promised, didn't you? You did. I couldn't believe the strength in her throat. She was pressing on my jaw with incredible strength. My fear reached its peak, and my knees started to buckle. All I could do was nod desperately as she spoke to me in her cold voice. She finally weakened her grip, but she didn't let go like she'd done a moment ago. Shit, she was a real stalker. How had she found me here? No, it wasn't that hard to figure out. The first day I met her, I'd seen her too. She was watching me from Bulletin 36. Trying to hide here was hopeless. How could have I been so stupid? I'm sorry. She whispered softly enough that nobody around us could hear. Her voice was weak and powerless again. It was like she had 2 personalities. This woman was crazy. I scared you, didn't I? But this was the only way I could get a chance to talk to you. She looked so apologetic that she actually made me feel a little guilty. She was one hell of an actress. I went to your home yesterday, but you weren't there, were you? I waited until late at night, but you never came home. No. I can understand why you'd want to avoid me. And I know I lied to you. If you know that, then just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I had nothing to say to one of Shogun's servants, particularly the sort of awful person who tried to trick and trap someone as helpless as me. But please, just let me say one thing. I don't want to see you get hurt or suffer anymore, or see any more people suffer because of you. What was she talking about? She was making it sound like she knew everything about me. She hadn't even spent a full day with me. What could she possibly understand? Was this another of her crazy delusions? I started to flail my limbs about in fear, but you wouldn't let go. She might kill me at this rate. Has Shogun given up and trying to trap me and set you as an assassin instead? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I'm sorry. Please just be quiet. This won't take long. Her voice was shaking, but her hands were so strong and holding me so tightly that I couldn't even move. I couldn't believe her tiny hands could have so much power. Nishijo. She got closer. I desperately looked away. Just... Suddenly I realized her hands were shaking. Or was my shaking just being transferred to her hands? Then she said something I couldn't believe. Please, stop killing people. What? You don't know you're doing it, do you? But I can understand that too. There's no way you could. What was she saying? You have... There was a sadness in her eyes. She'd been staring straight at me, but suddenly her gaze turned downward. You have DID. Dissociative identity disorder. Multiple personalities. I had... multiple personalities? At first, I was going to turn you over to the police. She kept talking despite my confusion. And if I couldn't, I was going to kill you with my own hands. But the more I found out about you, the more I realized you were suffering too. Her eyes were looking into mine again. They were pleading with me. And the way it seemed like she was really worried about me. It made me shiver. I want to save you. Your delusions were getting out of control. Nothing she said made any sense. Wait, really? Did it really not make sense? Let's go to a hospital. I didn't understand myself. I used the nickname Shogun in a chat without even knowing it. I was friends with a girl named Dreamy without having any memories of her. Maybe I wasn't sleepwalking. Maybe there wasn't some being from a higher dimension controlling me. Maybe the person controlling me was, in fact, inside my mind the whole time. And me who wasn't me. Another personality who wasn't me. Multiple personalities. My head ached. There was a painful stinging in my temples. This was impossible. It couldn't be true. I wasn't going to believe it. It was just a delusion of Yua's. She was my enemy. She was getting in my way. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to destroy my mind. The hospital was under Shogun's influence too. The one person I could trust, Dr. Takashina, had disappeared so suddenly that I knew something must have happened to him. Shogun must have killed him, and if I did what Yua said, I'd be killed too. There was no way I was gonna believe this woman. I don't believe her, 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 I don't believe her. My brain shut down. I pushed her as hard as I could. She fell back into the wooden partition door and collapsed to the ground in pain. Finally free from her grip, I grabbed my bag and stepped over her into the corridor. Wait. She grabbed my ankle, still crouched on the ground. Her hair was a mess and her glasses had slid down onto her nose. She was clinging to me as hard as she could. I was so scared, I let out a miserable scream. She was my enemy. She was working with Shogun. I wouldn't let her fool me. I won't let her fool me again. Don't touch me! I screamed and she let go. I ran while I had the chance. I slammed down a 5,000 yen bill from my wallet on the counter in front of the astonished clerk. Then I ran to the elevator outside without even waiting for my change. When I hit the ground floor, I dashed outside. The sun had already set. I looked around. There were so many people around. Run. I just had to run. It was too dangerous to go back to the base. She'd follow me there. I started to run without even knowing where I should go. The thought of Yua coming out of the other elevator at any second now and threatening me with her cold voice made me feel like I needed to get out of there as soon as possible. I ran and ran, stopping again and again to look behind me. The other pedestrians kept getting in my way. I slammed into salaryman and Dokyun-looking high school girls. Each time they'd curse at me. But I ignored them and kept running. It hurt to breathe. I chose my path randomly, so I didn't even know where I was. I stopped to catch my breath, then I looked around at my surroundings. I was in front of the Maruichi building. I was close enough to Miyashita Park that I could escape there. I'd rest a little, and then keep running. If I could get to Yoyogi Park, there'd be any number of places to hide, and we could spend the night there. I couldn't stop worrying about whether or not Yua was following me. I couldn't see her anywhere. But she might show up at any second, that placid, emotionless face of hers. My instincts drove me forward. Run. Run! When I made it to the bridge at Miyashita Park, I flopped right down onto the ground. I'd run so much my throat was parched. I wanted an ice-cold soda. Speaking of soda. But I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I'd run enough that I was safe now. No, I couldn't be sure. I kept a careful eye on my surroundings. I assumed Miyashita Park would be pretty empty at night, but that didn't seem to be the case. I saw a salaryman walking quickly through the park, taking a shortcut on his way home, an older man sitting on a bench and playing with his cell phone. A group of homeless men were sitting together, and a man in blue was talking to them. A policeman. Oh boy, more delusions. The police. I gulped. Those two policemen had talked to me before, hadn't they? I hadn't heard anything from them. They said they sent someone to watch the area around the base, but nothing had come of it. Misumi had said they'd come to school, though. What were their names again? I couldn't remember. I told them exactly what I'd seen during the crucified incident, but looking back, something in their expressions had made it clear they were pretty suspicious. Suddenly, the police officer standing by the homeless man looked over at me. Or at least it felt like he did. No way. Terrible thoughts came to me. I stood up and looked around once more. The man on the bench with the phone was glancing at me, or so it seemed. Just now, a tough-looking man had come into the park and leaned up against a fragile-looking pipe fence and spread out a paper to read. Here in a dark place with almost no street lights. The salaryman who'd been walking so quickly through the park was now on the edge of the bridge, staring down at the street below. The officer who had been speaking to the homeless people was now looking at me and speaking into his radio. Cold sweat began to trip down my back. Maybe they were all detectives. Maybe they were all tailing me. If so, I was completely surrounded. Yo had decided that I was the killer. What if she had taken her delusions to the police? Damn it. I whispered, soft enough that nobody could hear me. Was this part of Shogun's plot? I didn't do it. I didn't kill anybody. It wasn't me. How come a wimp like me was being chased by the police as a murderer? Why did I have to get caught up in Yua's, megalomania? Yeah, megalomania. Big word. I had to get out of here. My heart was still beating fast and unsteadily, but I had to run. I walked over the bridge, trying to look as natural as possible. In front of me was the bridge heading toward Meiji Street. I'd go down it and then escape onto Meiji Street. When I got to the middle of the bridge, someone new appeared on the far side of it. It was a woman in a business suit. She had a phone up to her ear and was walking up the stairs with a blank look on her face. Was she a detective too? My heart was racing as I passed by her. Whose eyes are those? That's what it says on those cool t-shirts everybody's got. They're gonna buy one on Sunday. You could buy them on Takeshita Street in Harajuku. Something felt wrong. The way she spoke was strange and awkward. It sounded like she was an actor putting on a performance. Who was she talking to on the phone? Was she talking to anybody at all? But in the end, she didn't do anything as I passed by. I made it to safety to the stairs, and I looked back at the park. The police officer wasn't following me. He was still standing at the same spot, saying something into his radio. One of the homeless people was just standing up, the others didn't move. The man on the bench and the man with the paper had both stood up and were walking toward me. They both gave each other a glance. They were signaling to each other, at least that's what it looked like. I looked at the woman again. We had just passed each other, but now she's turned to look toward me. When our eyes met, she seemed startled and looked away. Her phone was still at her ear, but she wasn't talking. I ran down the stairs, overcome by an indescribable fear. As I headed down Meiji Street toward the station, I looked up at the bridge. The woman was leaning over the railing and pointing at me. The two men were running across the bridge. They were detectives after all. They were all with the police. Shit. It was all Yua's fault. She'd set me up. Should I proclaim my innocence? Right now, I was running from the police. Now they were probably just going to try and frame me anyway. You wouldn't believe a creepy otaku like me. I didn't have time to think about what would happen next. For now, I just needed to get away from Yua and the police. And one desire was the only thing driving me. I ran through the underpass and up the stairs of the pedestrian bridge. People kept getting in my way and blocking me. I started to wonder if they were doing it deliberately. Everyone started looking like a detective. I was on the verge of panic. I looked back and saw somebody chasing me. Got a glimpse of them moving through the crowd just like I was. It was one of the people I'd seen at the park. I couldn't tell which. But they were chasing me. I shuddered. They caught me here. My life was over. I'd been given the death penalty for a crime I didn't commit, and put in jail for decades. I'd endure a living hell for years, and then they say, okay, it's time for you to die. Please no, I couldn't handle that. I didn't want that to be my life. Even if I was found innocent in the end, once you were branded a criminal, that didn't disappear. Nobody would ever trust me again. Please no, I didn't do anything. I ducked into a small side alley and kept running as fast as I could. But since I'd been running ever since I left that cafe, I quickly ran out of breath. My lungs were desperate for oxygen. My legs could barely move from exhaustion. I regretted not exercising more, but it was far too late for that now. Finally, I stopped, leaning forward with my hands on my knees and panting. I couldn't run anymore. I was in a place I recognized. The distinctive red brick exterior, the big light-up sign reading Gigantes. I had come here once with Misumi. Back then, I got to see Phantasm's concert, more specifically, its lead singer, Fess. Now it was quiet and seemingly empty. Only the feeble light of a single vending machine illuminated the front of the building. I glanced back at the path I'd come from, annoyed that my breathing wasn't going back to normal. It was a dark and narrow alley. The Toyoko line's train passed right above me, the light streaming from the car's windows shining bright against the night, but even that light failed to reach the darkness just beneath it. I squinted into the night. Had I ditched the police in Yua? It was too dark to see. Follow me. I heard a voice right next to my ear and let out a pathetic scream as I fell back. It was Fess. She was dressed in an elaborate outfit she wore for her concerts. She was quietly stood above me in the darkness. There was a sense of fragility about her that hadn't been there when I saw her on the stage. It was too dark to guess at the look on her face. As I sat there, too shocked to move, Fess offered me a hand. Stand up, quickly. Her voice was calm, but there was power in it. She slowly turned her head, her hand still stretched out to me, as if to see what was beyond the darkness.
逃げないと。
We need to run. How? Did she know I was being chased by you, one of the police? For a moment, I was cautious, but right now I had no choice but to trust her. I grabbed it and clung tightly. Her hand was cold. As I stood, she started to run. I was angry because of how exhausted I was, but if it weren't for Fess, I might have stayed there until the police caught me. I wanted some water, but I knew there wasn't time. Fess kept pulling me onward. We went down narrow alleys, turning at one intersection after another. I no longer had any idea where I was going. I barely knew the layout of Shibuya anyway. At this point, I just have to keep following Fess. Part of me thought for a minute that this might be a trap of Shogun's, but I brushed the thought away. Even if Fess was working for Shogun, there was nothing we could do at this point. My leg muscles were filled with lactic acid, and all the running must have kept my brain from getting enough oxygen, because I felt like I was on the verge of passing out. I had to stop myself from telling Fess that I couldn't run anymore. Actually, I might have said it a bunch of times without realizing it. Fess kept running, without even looking back at me once. The next thing I knew, we were on the path directly beneath the highway. We were close to Shibuya Station, but there weren't many people here at all. Fess headed down a stairwell that was that led into the darkness. I felt like she knew exactly where she was going. When we got to the very bottom, she finally stopped. I let go of her hand and grabbed onto the stairwell's handrail, panting for breath. How much running had I done today? I wasn't sure if I'd ever exercised so much in my life. Seems like she hasn't run that much in her life either. For a while, the only sounds in the dark, gloomy underground corridor were the sounds of our breathing. I looked up at the stairwell's entrance. Nobody had followed us. Had we gotten away? That said, never seen this little underground corridor before. It was close to the station, but there was nobody there. One of the lights illuminating the tunnel was on the verge of burning out. It was constantly flashing on and off. There was a faint smell of rotting garbage. The place seemed to symbolize the underground side of Shibuya. If somebody attacked you here, you could scream, but nobody would notice. It wasn't a place I'd want to come to alone. Oh boy, more delusions. Still panting for breath, I looked over at Fess. This was the underground indie singer who was beloved by all of the youth of Shibuya, the one that even called a prophet. And here she was, with a creepy otaku like me. I felt kind of weird. Beads of sweat had formed on her forehead, running in rivulets down her face. She was wiping them away with the back of her hand. I could see part of her bare chest inside her open jacket, peeking out above the camisole she wore. It was heaving up and down with each breath she took. For all that her... Let's try that again. For all that her languid demeanor, there was something about her body that felt sexy and alive. It wasn't really moe, it was... Sexy probably was the best word for it. Fess was hot. Misumi was right when he said that so before. You couldn't really tell when she wore her school uniform, but in this outfit it was obvious. She was tall, and her breasts were just the right size, and she has a curvy waist too. This is the bad delusion, right? I'm concerned. And then there were her legs, shown off beneath her miniskirt. They were long and well-toned. She looked like a model. A girl with proportions like hers might look great in a competition swimsuit. Yeah, very important decision from the game earlier. the beginning of the game, if we hadn't picked preferring competition swimsuit, he would have said a school swimsuit, so... Well... No, wait a second. School swimsuit might be better. The cooled vest in a school swimsuit. That would create the perfect gap between costume and persona. Wait, why was I thinking about this now? Great question, bud. I picked the bad delusion, not the good one. You were being chased, weren't you? Huh? Yeah. The police. I nodded. It wasn't just the police, but you would too. But I was too tired to explain that. Me too. Huh? What did that mean? They want to talk about how the lyrics I wrote are like some murder case. They were really persistent. New-Gen. Vessa's lyrics matched to every one of the cases. That's why her believers all said the same thing, that she was a prophet. They suspect me, I guess. As the New-Gen killer, huh? I had to, when I learned about her lyrics for the first time. I actually thought she might be Shogun. But since she saved me, it actually might not be true. What was Fess doing there, though? It was just blind luck that she'd been there to save me, right? It was right in front of the concert hall, so maybe she had a concert today? Why were they after you? Did you do something wrong? She told them. That woman, she told them about me. She's telling them I'm the New-Gen killer. You would try to get me arrested. Damn it, she and Shogun were on the verge of destroying my life. I see. We're both suspects then. How could she be laughing? I'm innocent! I got so excited I yelled. My voice echoed loudly throughout the tunnel, but I couldn't control myself anymore. I just happened to see the murder, that's all. Okay, maybe I took some evidence home, but that's all. Points for admitting you took evidence home, I guess. I didn't kill anybody. Then... Fess's voice regained its calmness. You must have been guided there by a greater being. What? Another crazy chick? Another lunatic? Whether what you saw was real or an illusion is a minor matter. That terrible, awful scene was an illusion? Was that possible? It was so real. The suffering and anger you feel now were necessary for you to experience. But what was she talking about? I was disappointed. I kinda realized she was crazy when I'd seen her at the concert, but I didn't realize it was this bad. They say there's a fine line between genius and crazy, but... Find it, quickly. Find the sword. I gasped. That's what she said at school before. Find it and you'll be saved. That's what she said before. The police were scary, but Shogun and his servants were even scarier. I didn't know why, but they were clearly trying to trap me. And if I was going to save myself from them, if I was going to protect myself, I needed a D-sword. That's right. Fess's lips curled into a smile. You've done your homework, I see. I have one. I have one D-sword. It's at my house. I know. You know? How do you know? I saw it. You were walking across the center of Shibuya, looking terribly embarrassed as you carried a big toy. She was talking about the day I bought the D-sword. Ugh, I can't believe she'd seen me. No, hang on. What had Fess just said?
おもちゃ
Toy? The smile was gone from her face. She glanced at me for a moment, and then sighed. The fear of ennui about her was so... or ennui, I don't remember. About her was so strong. I was starting to get nervous.
偽物
It's a fake, I think.
あなたの買った剣
That sword you bought. And I wasn't that surprised. It was actually what I expected to hear, actually. Compared to the sword that Senna had, mine looked incredibly cheap, and it didn't glow either. And anyway, Fessa told me that this was the sword that was going to save my life. The idea that it was on sale for 10,000 yen next to a bunch of sex toys was just too lame to be real. So I wasn't that surprised. Instead, I felt violently angry. Angry at the gloomy-looking shop clerk who tricked me. Angry at myself for being stupid enough to fall for it. Angry at Fess for saying all these important-sounding things without actually telling me anything useful. Then I stood up and stormed over to Fess. Normally I'd never be able to do something like that, but right now I was desperate. My encounters with you and the police had scared me to death. Not only that, I've been through absolute hell in the past month or so. I was sick of it. If I was going to go back to my normal life, I needed that sword. But tell me,
いいそうの
how can I get a D sword?
どうやって手に入れるのか
The look on Fessa's face became very serious as she turned towards me.
見て
Look. She held out her right palm for me to see. Then she motioned for me to stop getting closer as she made a fist. Then she flung her arm back. And the sound sounded like breaking glass. The empty air cracked and shattered. My eyes went wide in shock. Fess stared at me, her expression unchanging. Beyond the cracks in space, I could see a deep darkness. Fess stuck her hand in between the cracks and pulled hard. And a D sword. The crack in space was repaired almost instantly. It disappeared, as if it had never been there. The whole thing took only a few seconds. You hate that sword so much? Why? Was that a magic trick? Or just a delusion I'd seen? I couldn't believe what had just happened. In front of my very eyes. It didn't feel real. This is something out of a fantasy or an anime.
この剣は
This sword controls fate. The sword was the one that Fess was waving around during her concert. One I thought was a mic stand. It was shaped like one of those battleships you'd see in every sci-fi anime.
この剣は
This sword is the convergence of sorrow. I imagine you meant wood instead of world, but yeah, I guess you could easily stab yourself with it. There wasn't a single straight edge on the whole thing, but it was sharp, beautiful, and terrible.
この剣は
And this sword
超
allows
越
us
し
to
た場所に
interact with
干
the
渉す
higher
るための
plane.
もの
It felt like touching it would cut your fingers clean off.
超越した場所って
Plane? I couldn't look away. My eyes were locked on Fess's D sword. I couldn't help but ask.
異空間
Another space,
のような
you might say. Another space. This whole thing was turning into an anime. Oh, buddy.
同一次元上にある
Another possibility that exists within our dimension.
あるいは
Or
妄
perhaps
想
a delusion. delusion.
言い方にあんまり意味は
When
な
you
いが
call it doesn't matter.
唯一確かな
And one thing that's certain is
この剣も
this sword
その領域に
exists
存
within
在
this
しているという
space.
こと
Did that mean that the D sword was a project of Fess's delusions? The impossible scene that I just witnessed was a delusion? It didn't exist in reality?
そんなの
That's
ありえない
impossible.
そう
Is it? If Fess's sword was a delusion, how could I see it?
言葉に引きず
Don't
られ
let
ては
words
ダメ
control you.
後ろを振り返ってみて
Look behind you. I was confused at Fess's sudden demand, but obeyed. Behind me was the stairs, and also... Okay. Fess was standing there, wearing a school swimsuit.
ああ
Huh? What? Huh? Fess was beside me, and Fess was in front of the stairs. There were two of the same person in the same place, and one was wearing a school swimsuit. Shocked, I looked back and forth from one to the other. Their face, build, hair, everything was the exact same. The only difference was their clothes and whether they were holding a sword or not. They weren't twins or anything like that. They didn't just look alike. They were exactly the same. I'd seen lots of girls in their swimsuits in H games, but this was totally different. Fess was standing in this filthy tunnel in a school swimsuit, even said Kishimoto and marker on the chest. Totally moe. It was such an incredible situation that my head was spinning. I knew I shouldn't look, but I kept glancing at it anyway. It took a lot of effort to look down so I couldn't see.
ごめん
I'm sorry. I found myself apologizing. This was just what I'd been imagining in my delusions a few minutes ago. Fess wearing a school swimsuit.
君が望んだも
This is the delusion you desired. Both of them spoke the same words at the same time. I gulped. My face was turning red with incredible speed. I had to come up with an excuse. I had to come up with some kind of lie. If a 3D girl labeled you a pervert, you were finished. You would be banished from society. Wait, no. That was important. But more importantly, what the hell was going on here? Alright. Going back to the sword thing though, because I didn't address it. Not to mention the striations make it pretty bad for actual sword-to-sword combat. I don't think these D swords are used for sword-to-sword combat, if I can be honest. But I'm sure you guys figured that as well. You're just criticizing the sword as a sword. I think it's cool though, and I still want one. Yasujiban was walking through a narrow, filthy alleyway in Maruyamacho. He jammed a hand in his pocket. Jammed it. He checked, making sure there were a dozen or so coins inside. Hey, what do you expect to find at the scene of the crucified? It's been over 2 weeks since the murder, and they already went over the place with a fine-tooth comb. There's not going to be any new evidence. His partner, Detective Suwa, was walking behind him and complaining in an irritated voice. It was only natural that Suwa would be upset. The job they'd been given was to tell Takumi Nishijo, a person of interest in the new gen murder cases. But right now, they were ignoring that job and coming to visit the scene of the third new gen case, Crucified. Bon had left the job of tailing Takumi Nishijo to some of the local cops without bothering to tell them the rest of the force he'd done so. Nice. From the perspective of a rookie like Suwa, this was reckless and crazy. We shouldn't be here. Let's get back to our tale. Bon had dragged him out here without an explanation. Of course he was upset. So, he'd been trying to persuade Bon to turn back for a while now, but... Shut up, Bon. Follow me. Bon completely ignored the rookie's protests and didn't seem the slightest bit concerned. Before long, they reached a narrow road blocked off by yellow tape. Matsuwa sighed again, seemingly for the 100th time that day. His phone buzzed. He took it out and looked on, and he took it out. The look on his face quickly returning to that of a young, capable detective before he pressed the button to answer.
座っす。
This is Suwa.
はい。
Yes.
はい。
Yes. Bond stopped in front of the tape as he listened to Suwa talking behind him. Past the tape was the crime scene. The place was dark, just like it had been during the time of the crime. Except for the tape, there was nothing to indicate that anything had ever happened.
見失った
You lost him?
女か。
A girl.
やられたっ
Well,
すね
didn't see that one coming.
とりあえず、
Anyway,
深センの家に
head back
戻って
to
ほしい
his
っす
house in Shinsan.
はい。
Yeah.
張り込んでてください。
Stake it out.
いやいや、大丈夫
No,
です
no, it's fine.
責任はバン
Lieutenant
警部
Bond
が
will
取る
take
から
full responsibility. Bond chuckled a little when he heard that. Suwa was cleverer than he looked. Of course, Bond had no intention of letting Suwa or the locals take the fall for him.
なるべく早くこっちも合流しま
We'll
す。
hook up with you as soon as we
本当申し
can.
訳ないっす
I'm really
お願いします
sorry. Thanks. Suwa hung up the phone and glared at him just about the same time. Blah, blah. Just about the same time as Bond ducked under the tape. Suwa followed reluctantly.
見失ったって
They lost him.
尾行に気づかれたっす
He noticed the tail.
直前にネットカフェ
Looks like there
で
was
一
some
騒動
kind
あ
of
ったみたい
struggle
っ
at
す
the
し
net cafe just before it happened.
女っての
What's this about a girl?
岸本綾瀬っす
I asked Kishimoto,
お騒がせバンドの
the girl from the famous band, huh?
つなが
Any
り
connection?
同じ学校の同
They're
じ
in the
学年
same
っす
grade, at the same school.
他は今のところ
Nothing else for now.
クラスメ
They're
イト
not
でもないっす
classmates even.
うん
Bond ran his hand through his stubble, enjoying the sensation for just a moment. Then he took out the coins from his pocket and began to count them in the darkness. Suwa watched his partner's strange behavior, his mouth hanging open. But
何してるんです
what
か
are you doing? I'm missing a 5 yen coin, damn it.
そう
Suwa,
お前
you got 5 yen on you?
はあ
I guess. So I handed the 5 yen coin over with a confused look on his face. But instead of taking it, for some reason Bond ripped off the bottom button on his dress shirt. Then he began to unravel the string wrapped around it.
先輩
Have you
ついに
finally
頭お
gone
かしくなったんす
crazy?
か
生意気な
You've certainly got a mouth on you, huh? Bond chuckled and lightly punched him on the forehead. Then he took the 5 yen coin and ran the string through the hole in the middle.
よし
Okay,
お前にやらせて
I'll let you do it then. Bond pinched both ends of the string with his fingers, hinking the 5 yen coin between them, and gave it back to his younger partner.
振り子っすか
The pendulum?
ああ
Yep. Bond laughed mischievously.
こいつが事件
He might give us an important hint we can use to solve the case.
マジっすか
Seriously?
バンさん
Bond, you should know better than this.
そのために仕事
Did you
を
ditch your
持って
job and come all the
ここま
way
で来
here
た
to
んすか
play with a pendulum? Suwa sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Bond had dragged him on a lot of wild goose chases. This was the worst of the lot.
サイキック操作とか
Are you a psychic detective now? Or were you out here dowsing? The act of using a stick or pendulum to search for underground water or mineral ore. The most popular method of dowsing involves the use of 2 angle rods, L-shaped metal sticks. People who douse are called dowsers. The most pervasive theory as to how dowsing works says that the human body contains materials that act as natural magnets, and these magnets respond to underground waterways, causing our muscles to unconsciously tense. This makes it look like the dowsing rods are moving on their own. Interesting.
その手のテレビでも見て
Did you get this from a
影響を受け
TV
た
show or
んすね
something?
そういうお
You
前
seem to
も
know a
詳しい
lot
じゃね
about this stuff.
いやまあ
Well, I
自分も
mean,
見た
I
は
saw
見
it
ますよ
too.
先週の
Last week's Yuri Brightman.
有利
Yuri Bright.
ユーリ・ブライト
Yuri Brightman.
今話
A
題になってる
famous
アメリ
American
カの超
psychic
能力捜査官です
investigator. Huh? Psychic investigator. An investigator who uses psychic powers, such as clairvoyance, to solve crimes. Stories about psychic investigators are primarily found in America, but sometimes seen in the Japanese media as well. However, no such position actually exists in the American police forces. An orthodox opinion holds a dim view of the utility of psychic powers for crime solving. Nah, what I saw wasn't some made-up for TV thing. It was this smarty pants professor from a famous university.
でもテレビっすよね。
But it was on TV, right? Man, you complain a lot. Just try it and we'll know for sure. Come on, let it hang there. Vaughn had seniority, so Suwa had no choice but to obey. He frowned and pouted, but did take the 5 yen coin. Then he pinched the ends of the string and let the coin move in a circle. It was too dark to see, so Vaughn flipped out a 100 yen lighter and struck it to give him and struck it to give them some light.
先輩ってタバコ吸います
Do you smoke? I quit over a decade ago. Why?
ライター持って
Well, you have that lighter. I thought we might need a light, so I made sure I brought one.
はは で
So,
これ
what
で
does this
何か
tell
わかるん
us?
す
Try moving it around, stopping it, that sort of thing. Vaughn was staring at the movement of the 5 yen coin intently. It looked so serious that Suwa found himself unable to complain anymore. I knew it. Suwa, do you see it?
何がっす
See what? The way the coin's moving. Feels like it's moving in kind of an ellipse, right? The coin is moving slowly in a circular motion, held up by the string. Suwa looked at it, a little confused.
力の入れ
Maybe it's just the way I'm spinning
方
it.
じゃないんすかね
Were you trying to spin it in an ellipse?
いや結構
No.
適当に
You're being pretty random about it.
もっと手を動かさねえ
Try to
と
keep your hands steady.
は
Okay. Suwa tried his hardest to make it move in a circle, but no matter how many times he tried, he kept tracing out an ellipse.
あおかしいな
That's weird.
意識的に違う
You try and make
形に
it go in a
しよ
different shape,
うできねえ
and it doesn't work right. Vaughn grinned. Suwa, however, seemed unsatisfied and kept trying to spin the coin.
な渋谷のどこで
Well,
も
it doesn't happen just anywhere in Shibuya,
それでも
but there are supposedly at least a dozen places like this.
確かに不思議
Yeah,
っすね
it's weird.
でもだから何なん
But
す
so what? Vaughn looked up with a satisfied smile, putting the lighter in his pocket and taking the fan out from his belt.
お前渋谷が
You know why so
なんで
many
ここま
kids
で
are drawn to
知ってる
Shibuya?
知ってるか
5円玉が大
Because 5 yen coins travel in ellipses? Suwa meant it as a joke, but Vaughn calmly waved his fan and nodded.
まあ
Yeah,
そういうこと
that's right. Alright.
なぜこの渋
Do
谷
you know why so many young kids? Blah, blah, blah. Do you know why so many young kids are drawn to Shibuya? I can read so good. Fest began to talk about something completely different. Eternally, I was relieved. I thought she'd treat me like I was a pervert. But instead, she just ignored all that. She has other things to worry about. Bigger fish to catch. There aren't many places in Japan, no, the whole world, like this. Did that have something to do with the D-sword? If not, I didn't care. I needed Fest to tell me how to get a real D-sword.
新宿で
Not Shinjuku, or Ikebukuro.
渋
Shibuya.
この町の名前
It's Shibuya, that's famous.
しまうくらい
The two Festas were speaking to me simultaneously, one in front of me and one in back. They were in perfect sync. Listening to them made me feel kind of strange. Maybe Fess had split. Maybe one of them was real and the other wasn't. Or maybe both were fake. Shibuya is the city of youth. Every Japanese person knows that. Why is that? Why? Well, I didn't care. Because it's a city of fashion. Because there's so many stores. Because so many trends start here. Because it's on TV a lot. Because it's easy to get to. No, none of those reasons are correct. The two Fesses paused for a moment. I felt awkward, with the Fess watching me both in the front and the back. The great will. The will of a higher dimensional being. Or put more simply, God. Oh no, could this be? Was I being recruited for some kind of weird cult? I started to panic. I wasn't sure if I should run. When she said her next words, that ceased to be an option. The D's words are an expression of the Great Will's guidance. You know what gravity is, right? Bon headed for the narrow street and back toward Shibuya Station. Suo had been sure they were going to Shinsen, so he looked confused as he followed. You mean like universal gravitation? A physical law discovered by Newton that says that everything with mass, whether it's matter or energy, exerts a force on every other mass. The pull, gravity, planets exert on each other follows this law. The stronger the mass, the more force is exerted, and the further away the two masses are, the weaker the force becomes. The famous story of Newton getting the idea when he saw a tree falling from an apple is, unfortunately, likely a myth. No, you do know. I guess you did go to a good college. Bon grinned, but Suo just looked away. I'm afraid I didn't study the occult in my time at college. It ain't the occult I'm talking about. There are a bunch of places in this world where gravity is unbalanced. Unbalanced. That's why the pendulum goes in ellipse. They call it the GE rate. GE rate. Yeah. I forgot what the official name is. Gravity error? Gravitation, maybe? If it's gravity. Gravitation error rate? Oh, yeah, that's it. The gravitation error rate. I guess it's the rate at which gravity doesn't work, right? You should be able to find it in a physics book. I don't remember seeing it there. GE rate. The rate at which the universal gravitation is unbalanced. Universal gravitation was the basic natural force discovered by Isaac Newton. It was a force that worked on both matter and energy. The layers of geological strata below the Earth's surface were said to have a huge effect on it. Layers of volcanic rock beneath the Earth, for example, were known for screwing up magnetic fields. That was why, for instance, compasses wouldn't work in the Aokigahara forest at the base of Mount Fuji. Aokigahara, okay. A fossil layer would be another example. It would contain large amounts of iron and calcium, and research showed that these could reflect magnetism. And magnetite, especially, was known for its effect on gravity. A type of iron ore which is used to make magnets. If it's black and It is black and lustrous in color. Its crystal structure is an octahedron. Magnetite was a naturally occurring magnet with octahedral crystals. If enough of it were to ever be found in a single place, that it would exist as a geological dike. It would be as if the surface of the Earth itself had turned into a magnet. It would likely have a slight effect on the gravity in the area. You could take the effect of these geological factors that had on the gravitational balance of an area and turn it into a number. The number was its GE rate. By the time Bond finished his explanation, the two of them were out on the bigger streets of Dogenzaka. The whole area suddenly seemed much brighter. Shibuya's average GE rate is supposedly among the highest in the world. There have been cases of people settling a ball on the ground and having it travel up a hill. Seriously? Suwa had been quietly listening until now, but his reaction was a little overdramatic. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. You love those, right? I don't like the cerebral ones. I like the big space operas. Whatever. What are you saying? Sounds like it makes sense. But I can't believe it. I've never even heard of this GA rate thing. Don't take your ignorance out on me. A detective needs to be able to look at things in an objective way. But Suwa is right. GA rates were a minor field of study, and not something you'd ever learn in a typical college curriculum. Bond had only found out about them a few weeks ago. You still haven't told me the answer anyway. Why wouldn't an imbalance in Shibuya's gravity attract young people to it? Humanity has a strange relationship to gravity. Did you know that living things' biorhythms are affected by the gravity of the moon? It's not just the tides. I heard once that sea turtles lay their eggs based on the phase of the moon. No, yeah. They always lay them on the night of the full moon. But it's not just sea turtles. Coral also lays its eggs on the night of the full moon too. Does coral lay eggs? No, that's actually when it looks like it's snowing in the sea. It's been proven scientifically that gravity gets stronger on the night of the full moon. Of course, it's got an effect on humans too. You mean human births too? Not just births. I said biorhythms, right? Not just biology, but traffic accidents, crimes, sickness, appetites, libido. It's deeply connected to all of that. They said the blood goes to your head when you get mad, right? That's because the moon's gravity is pulling it there. It's going a bit too far, I think. It's like you're saying that we don't have any emotions of our own, and it's all the moon's fault. I'm not going that far. Mass psychology, they call it. You know, when you come home, you start feeling good and you want to go a little crazy. It's the same with how everybody's reacting to the new gen incidents. Everybody in the city who sees it has the same reaction. They're all having a great time. None of them are worried they might be next. They're all just enjoying the show. And that's because of the GE rate? It's possible, right? The young kids all have this subconscious idea that coming to Shibuya means a fun time. That explains why they're so drawn to it, yeah. Bond was impressed. Suwa was a quick learner. He was still young, but he was good at this stuff. That's what made him different from the other kids, was that he didn't just blindly follow his partner's orders. If something seemed wrong or if he had questions, he'd speak up. I get how the GA rate works, I guess, but how does that help us find the killer? If the GA rate was causing crimes like this one, you'd think we'd be seeing new jet cases going back hundreds of years. Well, that's what needs to be looked at now, by a specialist, that says. You're not going to look into it? I'm a detective, not a scientist. Bond grinned. All I'm investigating is new gen. That's why I skipped out on work to come measure the GE rate of the crime scene. Say every spot had the same GE rate of regularity. What would that mean, you think? Don't tell me. Sua's eyes went wide, and he stopped in his tracks. He seemed to have noticed what Bond was leading him toward. The next murder is going to take place at a spot with a regular GE rate? That would mean we can narrow down potential locations of the next murder, right? We don't know that for sure. That's what we're about to find out. There's something in this town. Something unknown, lurking behind the glamour and lights. Maybe it was Pandora's box, which nobody should ever open. A mythical box that was a gift from the Greek gods, with a warning that it was never meant to be opened. A woman named Pandora gave in to her curiosity and opened it anyway, and as a result, the disasters hidden inside were unleashed onto the world. The one thing that remained in the box, it is said, was hope. That was what Bond thought as he watched people come and go down the street. The D swords are an expression of the Great Will's guidance. And that was enough to make me finally snap. First, I've been continually changing the subject, talking about things that didn't matter at all. The Great Will, the reason young people came to Shibuya. I wasn't interested in those things at all. There's one thing I wanted to know. How do I get a D sword? I worked up my courage and asked. Tell me. Fessa's expression of ennui stayed unchanged as she looked down at her own D sword. It was such a huge sword, but she seemed to carry it like it weighed nothing. It occurred to me that Fess might be incredibly strong. It's not something you can be told. But why? After all that crap she made me listen to, just wasn't going to tell me the most important thing? What the hell? You have to find it by yourself. I don't know how. She didn't know. So how does she get the one in her hands? But the D sword only reveals itself to those who have the power. So people who didn't have the power couldn't see it. I could see it quite clearly. What does she mean by the power? What does she mean that I had superpowers? Blah blah blah. Okay. Does she mean that I had superpowers too? Like the two Fesses with me? You can see my sword, right? That could mean only one thing. If having that power was why you and Shogun were coming after me, then I didn't even want it. But I still wanted a D-sword. Fess said that having it would save me. The Great Will, the reason young people came to Shibuya, those things didn't matter to me. I didn't need any power. I didn't want any trouble with the sword. I needed the sword to protect me from Yua and Shogun. Feel it. Feel the will the world has chosen. But Fessa's answer was vague and hard to understand. I bit my lip, trying to figure out how to get more information out of her. But I could barely talk to 3D girls even on a good day. Trying to figure out a way to get more information out of this one was beyond me. I tried to think back through the H games I played to see if they'd given me any ideas, but neither slip her an aphrodisiac, tie her up, or lock her up in a basement seemed like good choices. Man, I just realized I might be a piece of shit. Better late than ever, buddy. Better late than ever.
君名前は
What's your name? Huh? Fessa turned away from me and was walking deeper into the tunnel.
私は
I'm Ayase Kishimoto. Only then did I realize we hadn't introduced ourselves to each other. Takumi Nichijo. Fess, Ayase, had her back to me, so I couldn't see the look on her face. I couldn't tell why she'd laughed.
また会いましょう
Let's meet again,
たく
Takumi. Ayase got further and further away. I turned around, a little afraid to look at what the other Ayase was doing. And she was gone entirely. Whether she literally disappeared or just walked out of the tunnel, I couldn't tell. Ayase had said she was a delusion. Ayase had said she was a delusion. Was that the power of a D-sword? I looked back down the tunnel. There was another staircase 50 meters down the tunnel. Ayase was walking up it. Before long, she was entirely gone from view. I was left alone with the silence of the eerie tunnel. I didn't have the courage to yell at her. I was too tired and lazy to run after her. In the end, all I could do was go back home and try my best to make sure Yua and the police didn't find me. It felt like a long time since I'd been back to the base. In fact, though, I'd only been gone about 12 hours. The PC was still on, and my Seroton screensaver was smiling into the dark room. I made sure to carefully lock the door from the inside, and then threw myself on the sofa. When I closed my eyes, all the things that had happened to me today came flooding back. I couldn't believe the cops thought I was the killer. They were totally wrong. There's no way I could kill anybody, right? Do your jobs, damn it. This isn't a game. My brother were just coming after me because I was a creepy otaku. Otaku had a low social status. Nobody would complain if one was made out to be the killer. They weren't making any progress finding the real killer, so they wanted to make me out to be a scapegoat. Damn it. How was I supposed to clear my name? The events at Act Cafe came back to me and I shivered. There was somebody even scarier than the police out there. Yua was my enemy. I let my guard down because I hadn't seen her for a while. I thought she was just going to leave me alone. But today, I realized my mistake. I needed the D-sword to fight these people. I looked over at the cheap sword next to my computer. It was a fake. According to Yase, only those with the power could see a real one. But none of me had been able to see mine on the day I bought it. Unlike Ayase's and Senna's, my sword didn't glow. Where was the real sword? I needed it as soon as I could get it. Otherwise I was doomed. I was so sick of all this awful stuff that kept happening to me.
あなたは
You have
DID
DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder,
なんです
multiple personalities. No, that's not true. It's impossible. They say multiple personality disorder is really rare in Japan, don't they? You just saw too many movies and read too many novels. In Japan in particular, like, that's interesting, but he would clarify in Japan, because that's not how mental illness works. It didn't have multiple personalities. There's no evidence anywhere.
違う
No,
あれは違う
that doesn't count. But it would explain that chat log.
あんなの捏造
She
だ
made it up.
証拠
It's
には
not
ならな
evidence
い
of anything. But there's no evidence that I didn't have multiple personalities either.
先生は僕を
The
多
doctor
重人
didn't
格だ
diagnose
なんて
me
診断し
having
なかった
multiple personalities. He did diagnose you with PTSD at a really young age, though, buddy. But then Dr. Takashino vanished right after that for no good reason.
僕は
Hey, me, not somebody else. I know that better than anybody else. But I wasn't sure who I was. Suddenly, I felt a prickling on the back of my neck. The same as always, somebody's gaze, watching me. Whose eyes are those?
そうだ
That's right,
Shogun
it's Shogun.
あ
He
いつ
did
が
it.
犯人だ
He basically came out and admitted it in the chat log.
ユアは
He was
将軍の手下
working
だ
with
し
him.
ニュージェネ事件だって
Shogun's
でも
behind all
将軍
of
が
New Gen. But does Shogun even really exist? How did I know he wasn't just a delusion?
僕は
I'm
ま
I'm
ま
sane.
ともだ
I'm totally
まともなんだ
sane.
そうでしょ
Right? I held my head in my hands and screamed out to an empty room. An answer came from... You've got mail, dork. Sarah. I slowly walked over to my PC and opened the email. It was from Grim. The subject was, found something cool. It was probably more good or some mental browser crash image. I didn't have the time to deal with this trolling, but I decided to at least read it. Nightheart, how come you're not in chat? You're not playing ESO either. YouTube. This video's totally nuts. You gotta see it. I know you probably think I'm just trolling you, but it's got the new gen killer in it. Everybody's online talking about it, so you gotta watch it or you'll be left out, lol. A video of a new gen killer murder taken by the killer. My fingers were shaking on top of the mouse. I couldn't take my eyes off the text. Did it show who the killer was? Who was it? Was it me? Part of me wanted to see it, and part of me firmly resisted. This would be proof. Proof I wasn't the killer. Or maybe proof that I was. I didn't know which it would be. It was like gambling in a way. I felt my heart begin to race as I moved my mouse cursor over the link. But I couldn't work up the courage to click it. I want to save you. Shut up. Don't treat me like I'm the killer. Don't try to have sympathy for me. I didn't do it. You're the one who's working for the killer. Anger boiling within me, I clicked on the link. It opened a YouTube page. The video's window read, loading.
僕じゃない僕じゃ
It's
ない
not me,
僕
it's
じゃな
not
い
me, it's not 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 me. Ugh. The video only took 10 seconds to load, but to me, those 10 seconds felt like an eternity. Eventually, the loading ended, and the video began to play. It was showing someplace very dark. The background was totally black. Was it indoors somewhere, maybe? I brought my face close up to the monitor to see if I could make out any details. It was dark and hard to tell, but there seemed to be several boys and girls there. They were all talking really loudly. Maybe it was the low audio bitrate of the video, or maybe it was that they were all so excited, but I couldn't make out what they were saying at all. Sometimes they would scream violently, and the static from the low quality mic would be awful. After watching a while, you could tell there were 5 people there, 6 if you included the cameraman. The cameraman was carefully staying out of frame. It was hard to make out the faces of the others in the darkness, too. They seemed to be cheering each other, rubbing each other's foreheads, giving out friendly pats on the back and hugs. The girls seemed to be crying with joy in loud voices, too. It was a strange scene, sure, but what did it have to do with New Gen? Was it really the New Gen killer who was filming this? If nothing else, I didn't remember doing it. After a short while, the person holding the camera, slowly began to move forward. The 5 people in the shot, originally about 5 meters away, began to loom larger in the frame. The video's resolution was very low. Maybe they dropped the bitrate down as low as it could go during the encoding, to keep the file size as low as possible. Cameras these days had all had night mode on them. Why wasn't the cameraman using it? Maybe it was an old camera? Suddenly the camera panned from left to right, showing the surrounding area. What I thought was a black background was actually the night sky. The video was being filmed outside. The reason I hadn't seen any buildings was because they were on top of a skyscraper. The 5 boys and girls were standing right on the edge of the tall skyscraper. Behind them was a sheer drop. You could see the lights of the Shibuya spreading out from below. Finally, I understood. I knew what this footage meant. I knew why Grim said the Nugent killer had to have taken it. The group dive. The case where 5 boys and girls had jumped off the locked roof of Cornelius Tower. The one Nugent case where they weren't sure if it was a suicide or a murder. This video showed the 5 who died in the jump. And that wouldn't mean a 6th person was there when it happened. They've been wrong about what they were doing. They were all crouching on the ground, clinging together and crying. They all seemed to know they were about to die, and they couldn't accept it. One was shaking their head no over and over. One was on their knees, sobbing and ripping at their hair. One was screaming at the cameraman, demanding to know why they were doing this. One had already gone crazy and was crying while they laughed. What I saw was a violent desire for life, and a powerful wish to not die. And helpless fury at the unfair situation they were in. What was strange was, the cameraman's voice wasn't in the video at all. The person recording the video was almost eerily calm. Stop it. Stop! The video was close to a month old. Nothing I said now would change it. I knew it was meaningless, but I still couldn't help but scream at the monitor. None of them wanted to die. But of course, my words went unheard, and the person holding the camera kept walking toward the 5 of them. They began to crawl away from the camera in fear. But it didn't matter. The edge of the heliport was right behind them. There wasn't any kind of safety fence. There was nowhere to run for the 5 of them. Another step back and they'd fall. The camera slowly kept going forward, as if taunting them, oblivious to their cries. But even as it got closer, whoever was holding it did nothing but move forward. Then suddenly, all 5 fell silent. They didn't make any motion toward each other, and nothing happened to cause it. But they all fell silent at the exact same time. They stood up. The wind on top of the Cornelius Tower was strong. It threatened to knock them over. If they slipped, they'd fall. And then, they all took each other's hands, as if in resignation. Their hands clasped tightly with one another's. Stop. No, don't do it. Silence. Even the sound of the blowing wind felt like it had stopped. The only thing I could hear was the sound of the cars traveling on the highway below the skyscraper. The cameraman still didn't do a thing. And then, one of the 5, ever so softly, whispered. Whose eyes are those? I froze in front of the monitor, as if a cold hand had reached into my chest and grabbed my heart. Why? Why are you using those words again? This was the first Nugent case, right? Why had this boy suddenly said, whose eyes are those? That was the dying message in the 4th case, the vampire incident. This made no sense. The video continued, oblivious to my screams. The 5 of them slowly stepped off the edge, as if there was a path waiting for them there, and then they fell off into the darkness of the city sky. I bit my lip and covered my eyes. Group dive wasn't a suicide. This was murder. The killer was right there when it happened. And he was the cameraman. I knew the answer. Muffled by the strong wind on the roof. Hidden by the sounds of screaming and crying. In between the bursts of car horns from the highway below. There was another sound that I could just barely hear. It was the sound of creaking metal. A sound that I only heard when the cameraman moved forward. The sound of a wheelchair.
僕
what
の
I
前に
saw
現れた
then
のは現
was
実だ
real.
ったんだね。カメラの目線が
The
低
camera's
すぎ
too
だ
low
よ。
to the ground for somebody who's standing up.
将軍。
Shogun. Well, that's the chapter. A little shorter than the previous one, but still roughly the same length. We learned a lot more, like, about what's going on. So, like, I am glad that a lot more questions were answered, but there's also still more questions at the same time, you know? That sort of thing. But we are now going to be starting chapter 5 next week, and that's the halfway point since there's 10 chapters. So, and twisting and twisting. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with the class? Hmm. I'm kind of surprised at how far removed from real science the novel is so far, considering how grounded Steins Gate was. I mean, yeah, that's fair. We did get a lot of science this time, though. Victor Condrey University mention. Trying to decide who to read. But no thoughts had empty, you know. I think I'm gonna rate Suzu Tales. They're currently playing Lies of P, which is a new Souls-like, so... yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Especially since it doesn't seem like you guys have any additional thoughts you'd like to share, but that's okay. It'd be that way. Thank you guys so much for joining, like usual. Last stream as a PNG, so tomorrow will be very exciting. There's gonna be so much scuff tomorrow. I hope you guys are looking forward to the scuff. Will be all types of scuff that we've never seen before because I've been just a silly little PNG. Things have been pretty simple. I still need to figure out where I'm gonna place the TTS pets, but that is a tomorrow problem. Yeah, I hope a lot of you will be there tomorrow to see the grand live 2D reveal. Otherwise, I'll be live for the next 72 hours after starting a stream tomorrow too, so there'll be plenty of me to catch. Yeah, I guess that's all I got. Until next time, bye bye everyone.